Councillors, staff, members of the gallery, welcome to the council meeting for Tuesday the 27th of August. Now I'd like to open the meeting by, we'd like to acknowledge the land that we meet on today as the traditional lands for the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with the country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. As a region of council pledge, we seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the peace and prosperity of our city. Please be seated. I believe we have nil and apologies from Councillor Gabaka. I think everyone else is present. The declaration by members of a conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts of interest there tonight? Councillor Pearce.
15.6.
So just state that you're a candidate for a conference.
That's correct.
This is
Material. Material, yeah.
material. So you manage that by
I will leave the record.
So declare a material conflict, 15.6, because you're the subject of the.
That's correct.
Yeah. Any other conflicts of interest people like to declare? If not, we'll move on. Confirmation of minutes. The minutes of the ordinary meeting of council for Tuesday the 23rd of July should be taken as read and confirmed as a true record.
I move.
Councillor Group, wish to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Councillor Barnett, speak to it. Any further debate? All those in favour? Against, this carried. Unanimously. There's monthly activity report, pages 1 to 3. Someone happy to move it as it's presented?
That way.
Councillor Group, you should speak to it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wend, you should speak to it. Any further debate? Councillor Harris.
Yes, just a question on the meeting that I got called with last time. A meeting you had with David Cook, re the potential for Adelaide Football Club in the parkways and that sort of stuff. My question about it, well, as it go, number 1 and 2, are we given the impression that Prospect Council agrees with a club to go on there?
Yeah, it was a bit of a mixed meeting about a few things. So I've mentioned that topic because I think that's one that was mostly discussed. And Mr. Cook is our presiding member of the council assessment panel. He wished to discuss his candidacy for an ongoing role. I said, I can't discuss that with you, so I'm sorry if you called the meeting for that. That's not going to be discussed. Put your application in and we'll consider it on its merits along with what else we get. The issue of the Adelaide Football Club came up because he has been engaged by them as, I understand, their lead design consultant. So he was happy to give some general sort of knowledge around what they're proposing. Of course, that's a confidential matter between the club and the Adelaide City Council. But Blackfriars is a huge part of this community and they have an interest in their lease on that land. So there's a crossover there in terms of what some of our community expect to see happen in that area. And I think the biggest issue was how much of the playing fields will the Adelaide Footy Club want to ask for. And he's expressed that as more along the lines of the Fremantle Football Club training facility, which is one oval surface that's flexible. So one bigger place that you can shift the goalposts and redo the boundary line if you want to mimic the MCG or Perth Stadium or Adelaide Oval, rather than multiple oval spaces which are sized permanently as playing surfaces. So in terms of Blackfriars leasing, in terms of this community, that was interesting information. Now what of course ends up in the designs we won't know until Adelaide City Council, I presume, or Adelaide Footy Club release them. Blackfriars continue to advocate to say that they have a lease and they want their usage of the oval to continue. Of all of them, they've got a number of surfaces they lease. Meanwhile, we've also got our project which we were partners in to upgrade the parklands outside of the playing surfaces, so all the footpaths and the landscape areas and the barbecue facilities we'd like, and the kids bike trails we'd like, and all that sort of stuff. So I just wanted to know how much of what Adelaide Footy Club was going to do would hinge upon that. Seems to me very little. But that agenda is not progressing. It's waiting for this other agenda. So it was a broad conversation, but I thought that was the main element that was useful to record as being.
I was almost going to ask a question without notice, and 3/4 answered it.
Any other questions or debate? Vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Council member reports and briefings. Are there any? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, certainly in my role as an elected member and as a woman, but also as a secretary of the Australian Local Government Association SA branch, I attended a state dinner put on by the Premier of South Australia to commemorate 125 years of women's suffrage in South Australia on Tuesday, the 6th of August this year in Adelaide Town Hall. They commemorated the women throughout the evening by having, if you imagine inside the Adelaide Town Hall meeting room, the huge like photos were put onto the wall, and about 6 at a time they changed, and as the evening went on and comments were made in honouring them. Anyway, so among all the women commemorated that evening, I'm pleased to report that included in the illustrious roll call was Susan Grace Bennett, who was a South Australian and the first female local government member in Australia, elected in 1919 as the Councillor for Seacliff Ward of the then Brighton Council. And in South Australia, some of you received invites that we're celebrating her centenary this year. But I'm also pleased to report from the Prospect Council and Prospect resident that another woman was honoured, and that was Dr. Ruby Claudia Emily Davey of 5 Harrington Street, Prospect. Her parents moved in 1920 to Prospect, where the mother and the daughter taught music. Ruby was a gifted musician, composer, music teacher, conductor and performer. And Ruby was the first person in Australia to become a licentiate of the London College of Music in 1913. She was the first Australian woman to become a fellow of Trinity College of Music London in 1921, and the first, that was the first to be awarded outside England. She was also the first Australian woman to receive a doctorate in music. As you can imagine in those days, there were hardly any women in the universities. As a pianist, Ruby was not the first woman to earn this title at Adelaide University, but was also the first woman to gain a doctorate in any faculty. And in 1927, Dr. Davey gained an honorary fellowship at the Victorian College of Music, London, again, first to be awarded outside England. And I'll forward you information, more information on her. I've been researching her as being a member of Prospect Local History Group, and so I've also put an entry into the Prospect Local History Group's old prospectors webpage, as it's called. So I thought you might be interested that we do have some famous people, particularly some.
Thank you very much. That's great, thank you. Any other further council member reports or briefings? No, thank you. Move on to item 8, which is public question time. 15 minutes in total for this element of the meeting, and it's our second time at it, so we'll hopefully get it better and better. We had, during the last question time, a notice on Mark Stephen, in the gallery, and he asked a question which we took a notice, and I'll read you the answer. So I'll just remind you of the question. On the 5th of October 2017, a letter was sent to residents within proximity of Prospect Gardens, Nano Wirra, regarding a play-space upgrade to Servo. In essence, it stated that a small budget was set aside for upgrades to the play space. The Servo was seeking feedback from residents on the design and types of equipment they'd like to see as part of the upgrade. Nothing more has happened to the play space since that letter. My question's in 3 parts. What's the current status of the project? when it's expected to be delivered. 3, as it wasn't delivered in financial year 17-18, whatever became a small budget set aside for the project. So the answer prepared for me by the staff is as follows. Answer 1, to answer the question 1, Council can confirm that a survey was distributed to residents living in close proximity of Prospect Gardens, Ngāi Wira, regarding a proposed upgrade of the play space in October 2017. When undertaking community surveys, it's best practice to respond to all survey responders. This did not take place, which is disappointing and a mistake by Council Administration. As an outcome, Council Administration will distribute a letter to all residents living in close proximity of Prospect Gardens, Ngāi Wira, apologising for the delay and providing an update on the status of this project. Council Administration has results of the community survey and will be preparing a concept design in early 2020. This project will then be considered for funding as part of the 2020-21 annual business plan. Answer to question 2. Council endorsed an open space strategy in 2018. The strategy has identified Prospect Gardens, Ngāi Wira play space upgrade as a park priority for next financial year, that is 2021-22. This project will be considered for funding as part of the 2020-21 annual business plan. Answer to question 3. The upgrade to the play space at Prospect Gardens, Ngāi Wira is not specifically identified as a project in the 2017-18 annual business plan. Due to a change in staff, Council is not able to establish the amount or the source of funding for this project. Okay, right, there's the answer provided. So in terms of further questions, I have another question from the gallery from Mr. Standen, is that correct? Yep, if you'd like to read that question out.
Good address. Thank you once again for having me. My question, I'm Mark Standen, 7 Mawson Street, Nailsworth. Thank you. Okay. My question is in reference to the weed killer glyphosate. I think we call it Roundup, most of us. Earlier this year, a jury in the US agreed that the weed killer Roundup and the active ingredient glyphosate was the cause of non-Hodgkin lymphoma for a couple afflicted with the disease in the US. Here in Australia, the Victorian State Government has launched its own review on this product as a matter of precaution, and many Sydney councils are taking steps to ban themselves from using the chemical. So clearly there seems to be an issue. My question is to the Director of Infrastructure or Acting Director of Infrastructure or whoever's here in his place this evening. It's in 3 parts once again. First part, does the City of Prospect currently use the chemical glyphosate in its operations? Part 2, if so, does the City of Prospect have a timetable to phase out the usage? And part 3, if it were to be phased out, what chemical or process would replace it?
Thank you. We'll answer this from the Chair before I flip to the Acting Director of Infrastructure tonight. This question has been raised quite a few times in local government and other circles, and I, on behalf of the entire sector, wrote to the Federal Minister responsible for licensing, classifying and licensing chemicals, specifically to say, you currently have this as being a chemical that's safe to use. Have you withdrawn that status or modified it in any way? The answer came back from the Minister, very, very clear-cut answer saying no. We have no plans to, no reason to. It has not been withdrawn from use. We're not recommending it be withdrawn from use, and we recommend that it's used in strict accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. So that's the view that came back to the Australian Local Government Association, who distributed to every association in the country who provided that to councils upon request. So that's the high-level thing, because we, of course, don't have a laboratory, so we've sent it to them. But the question to the Acting Director of Infrastructure, those 3 parts, if you've got those in front of you there, just pass it around. We do have it for the topic. We're able to address those.
Thank you, through the Chair. Thank you, Mr. Standen. Now, thank you also to Councillor Pearce, who I believe may have also asked the same question of the Director Simon Bradley. It won't take me too long, but are you happy for me to read out the response?
Yes.
And if I may, I will refer to Councillor Pearce. Good afternoon, Councillor Pearce. Thank you for your inquiry regarding the use of glyphosate, or commonly referred to as Roundup. Australia's statutory authority to regulate agricultural and veterinary chemicals in Australia is the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority, APVMA. This is the authority upon which chemicals are given approval for use within predetermined guidelines, and this includes glyphosate. The APVMA website contains a significant amount of information regarding glyphosate, which I'm happy to send you you can forward on the website if that helps, the link. And their final regulatory position is that glyphosate is registered for use in Australia, and APVMA approved products containing glyphosate can continue to be used safely according to label directions. Glyphosate is found in a range of products widely used by councils, industry and the general public. Council staff have undertaken trials using methods such as steam to remove weeds and has considered using other chemicals. However, suitable alternatives have yet to be identified. Our current position is that glyphosate is approved by the regulator and councils may continue to use it safely in accordance with label directions. In relation to the use of any herbicides, we confirm that council staff are required to work within relevant WHS policies and procedures and have been trained in the appropriate procedures to apply such herbicides. Just to add on, if residents do not want council to spray the verge in front of their property, they may elect to maintain the verge themselves and lodge a customer request for the installation of green lines which will indicate to staff that this is a no spray zone. So I hope that information answers your question. I guess at this point it would be that we will continue to use glyphosate in accordance with the label directions and instructions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pearce.
Thank you, Mr. Stanton. Are there any further questions from the gallery? No, being the case, we'll finish question time early. Thank you very much for your interest. And we'll now move on to item 9, which is petitions. We have nil. Item 10 is deputations. We have a deputation from Ms. Elizabeth Crisp. If you'd like to come forward, Ms. Crisp. And again, for the purpose of the minutes, thank you, Mr. Stanton, for reminding me you state your name and address.
Elizabeth Crisp, 8 Cassie Street, Collinswood.
Thank you. And you'd like to address around parking?
Yeah. Do you mind if I sit down? I'm a little bit handicapped at the moment because I only have one functional eye. So.
Not all. In fact, the elected members have changed the rules, so nobody has to stand unless they want to stand.
I don't want to.
All right, 5 minutes starts now.
Okay, I'm sorry there's no other people here. I forgot to let them know that I was coming. But this is in response to the petition that we put up a couple of months ago, and I wanted the opportunity to talk to the petition. So thank you for this opportunity to speak to the petition. We wanted to talk to you before the Foodland reopens and a possible medical centre is approved. We now know the Foodland is opening next week on the 2nd of September. The residents of Cassie Street have been concerned about traffic and parking problems in the street for a long time. The new Foodland is at least twice the size of the old one. They have built into the large vacant shop which was next door, as well as building into the loading zone at the back and adding a mezzanine floor. There are 5 checkouts compared to 3 in the previous Foodland, which only really operated out of 2. There was not one additional car park for the Foodland despite its expanded size. If the medical centre goes ahead, there'll be no parks for clients, only parks for staff. We're also concerned that there'll be an increase in the shopping centre supply trucks using our street. These trucks should be using the main roads as our street is too narrow. The cream brick house should be demolished to create more parks for the Foodland. Cassie Street is an infill development street. It now contains 3 times the number of residents from the original housing in the street. It has SA housing tenants, elderly citizen tenants, young children, some owner-occupiers of single-storey detached homes, and a lot of affordable housing in the form of rented accommodation and small owner-occupier units. People who rent often also rent out their second bedroom to help cover costs, which results in extra cars having to park on the street due to insufficient off-street parking. When I moved into the street, it was a quiet and pleasant street to live in with about 500 vehicles per day using the street. The right-hand turn into Cassie Street off North East Road was closed due to accidents at the intersection, but Redmond Street next south was a right-hand turn with the accidents occurring there. When the council decided to close the right-hand turn at Redmond Street and reopen Cassie Street, right-hand turn, the accidents were transferred back to the Cassie Street North East Road intersection, and Cassie Street picked up about 400 vehicles per day from Redmond Street to make it a 900 vehicle per day road and to be often a busy street. When the traffic management occurred in 2010, Harvey Street and one way was closed in Cassie Street picked up 350 vehicles per day and the street often became quite chaotic. Cassie Street was not included in the post-traffic management road count and council had to be asked for a count to be undertaken, which showed 1,250 vehicles per day using the street. Cassie Street is too narrow for heavy two-way traffic and supply trucks. Everyone I spoke to is concerned about the traffic accidents and safety in the street, particularly when the food land reopens. Speaking to people in the street, we think the street will be unlivable if the shopping centre goes ahead and opens a medical centre at the back of the food land. And we are not only an infill development street with much affordable housing, but also a parking lot for the food land and the medical centre. There are now, oh, hang on. Ooh, I've mucked up I've got a page missing. Oh dear.
All right, we've got a couple of minutes left.
That's the problem when you're half blind. So basically we were saying, oh hang on. In talk we've got, what I then said was, there are now, in talking to people in the streets, residents have been losing the side mirrors off their cars and cars have been sideswiped. People living in affordable housing often do not have the money to replace these items and may not have insurance. The young woman whose car was trashed outside my house about 3 months ago did not have insurance and lost her car. One man who lost 2 mirrors said he started parking his car in the indented parking in Delanga Avenue, believing this would be safer, only to find one morning his car would not start and his battery had been stolen. He stopped parking there. There are numerous near misses at the corner of Cassie and Delanga, as people travelling up the street are often in the middle of the street and cars turning into the street come around the corner too fast. Cars with trailers have had to back up to let Cassie Street cars exit the road before they can turn into it. A similar problem of near misses occurs at the Cassie Street Rosebery Lane intersection with much tooting of horns. An accident occurred there in 2017. One resident said his car had been hit by a car in the last 6 months as it exited the shopping centre car park and did not look where it was going. He was travelling up the street. Many people have trouble exiting their drives due to parking and traffic problems. I can at times have to do a 5-point or even a 7-point turn to exit my driveway. If the street becomes a shopping centre car park, we then have the issue of people trying to find a park, squeezing into spaces that are too small and parking over people's drives, stopping them from being able to use their driveway. This is already happening. If Cassie Street residents have to park in adjoining streets because they cannot turn into their drives to find a park, this will not be safe for our cars, for children, for elderly people or animals on hot days. There was an incident near the corner of Cassie Street and Delanga Avenue recently where a man was jumping on the roofs of cars and the police had to be called. The council recently did a street car...
Sorry, if you could wind up within 30 seconds.
Yes, this will need to be repeated when the supermarket opens, as we know the traffic will increase considerably from what it is now. Given our street is too narrow for heavy two-way traffic, stopping cars from coming back up the street from the shopping centre is the only way we could think of to manage the problem. It will cause some inconvenience to residents of Cassie Street, but will also stop rat running from North East Road.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the deputy?
Yeah, thanks for that interpretation, Lizzie. Obviously, with the new supermarket opening next week, as you mentioned, do you sort of anticipate a figure of extra cars on the street? Because I know at the recent council meeting I asked the question on notice and the question came back saying that the administration is not expecting sort of adverse traffic implications with the new supermarket going in. What are your thoughts on that?
There'll definitely be an increase. We've had a bit of a drop in traffic since the food land's been closed. It's been closed for a couple of years. That'll definitely come back, and I think we'll get more because it is a much flasher, bigger supermarket.
Yeah.
So I think more people will be using it. And a lot of people come down our street.
Yeah.
People don't use Redmond. I don't think people use Redmond Street a lot.
Yeah.
I think they just all use our street.
Yeah, Cassie.
And some come down Harvey Street and down Rosebery Lane, but they have to go back up our street.
Yeah. Thank you.
Can I ask you, I'm assuming that they're the issues that you wanted to be considered in association with the petition, which Council
Yes. Yeah.
got a process saying that. Are you able to leave us a copy of that for the staff to put into their consideration?
Of what I've written?
Yes.
Yeah, but I'll get a proper version. Who do I give it to?
Only Mark will see it.
Okay, yeah, I'll email it to you.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what happened.
Swap the pages over.
Any further questions for Deputy? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, Thank you for outlining all of those issues, and I've been down there quite many times, and in fact you showed me around, and we could see how the parking for the delivery, sort of coming to and from deliveries, is an extremely awkward situation. So what would be the main things that the Cassie Street residents would like to see?
I think people, because it's so narrow and there's so much parking, all the traffic goes down the middle of the street, which gives us a lot of potholes as well. I think people would just like, and people feel it's quite unsafe, even with people who are travelling at not a fast speed. So I think people would like to see no trucks to start with. I mean, I think they should be going down the main roads, not coming up our narrow streets. But also I think they'd like to have a bit of a reduction in traffic and not have the constant, people having to pull over and to let cars park. It does get very difficult at times. I mean, I often can park across my neighbour's driveway, away from my gates. Yeah, I mean, there's often parking on both sides of the street. Because cars are being side-swapped and cars have lost their mirrors, people would like to see that not happening. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
And I expect we'll have more trucks because the supermarket's bigger.
Bless you.
Any further questions? That in the case, thank you very much, Ms. Chris, for coming in, and apologies for the mix-up last meeting, but you've rectified it now, and the new Butte version will be sent to the CEO and the staff will take all that stuff.
Sure. Okay.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Thanks, Lizzie.
Okay, moving on, motions on notice, we have nil. Questions with notice, we have one, from Councillor Pearce. If you'd like to read out that question.
Question: at the March 2019 council meeting, the motion to waive footpath permit fees was lost. It was stated the cost of collecting fees estimated between $4,000 to $6,000 per annum. Question 1, which businesses currently have a footpath permit? Question 2, what are the number of chairs incurring the $20 fee for each permit holder? Question 3, what payments have been received and what is outstanding? And question 4 is, what is the total revenue received to date?
Thank you. And the answer up on the screen there, I'll try and do it as best I can of reading this table out. The current footpath permit holders are listed down the side there, and to answer 2, the number of chairs that are registered, each one, I'll read it out together. Cafe de Roma, 16. Urati Cakes and Gâteaux, 36. River Grill, 4. Leo's Pizza Bar, 6. Minestra, 22. Espresso, 12. Coffo, 30. Mizamazi, 20. Almina on Prospect, 8. Sunny Shop, 29. 56-1, 16. New Nordic, 46. Little Cafe on Churchill, 8. Sunta, 12. Anchovy Bandit, 8. And Metro Market Cafe, 16, for a total of 289. Now for question 3. Question 3. A letter has been sent to all permit holders to clarify the number of seats they require. They've also been given the option to amend their applications. No permit holders have been invoiced for 2018-19, or the letters with invoices are about to be sent. Answer to question 4. No funds have been received at this stage. The projected revenue for 289 chairs is estimated to be $5,780. Thank you. That answers the question on notice. Are there any questions about this? Councillor May.
Okay. Is Prospect Council intending to apply to join the state government's single-use plastic-free precincts?
Thank you. Question and directed to Acting Director of Infrastructure.
Through the chair, I think I recall about 3 or 4 months ago that council actually endorsed a recommendation that we enter into a removal of single-use plastics from the city of Prospect. And now, as far as how we're rolling that out at the moment, I couldn't commit, but I know that the commitment is there.
through the chair. We have not got a policy position. We have got a policy position on single-use plastics, but we haven't got a policy position on whether village arts and marketing groups, for instance, should join the rollout plastic-free precinct. We were only just made aware of that move through your email, and we did some further investigation. We're not sure of how many precincts, what level of support there is from the state government, but I think the appropriate thing to do would be we could provide some analysis from the state government's perspective as to how many precincts are involved, if there's a level of support, and most importantly, provide that information to the Village Art Marketing Fund Committee and see if, with the level of support was available, they wanted to pursue that, and then we could bring a note back through matters in brief as to what the position is. So we can provide that information back to you.
Thank you. Any further questions without notice? Councillor Harris?
Yes, just to finish a question previously that I asked, or you answered. The situation with the Crows company taking over and working as part of the parklands. Now, my reason of asking this question is twice I've seen you on the, on the Giggle Box, and I fully accept and have no problems that you represent the school, right? That's nothing to do with it. But I've had people ask me, has council, are you speaking, has council got a position on the Crows company using the parkland? And so my question is, have we got a position on it? And if not, are we going to have some discussion about it so I can actually propose it? So that's my question. If we have, or we haven't, are we going to have some sort of thing?
Okay. Yeah, there's a whole pile of stuff in that question clearly, which some of it you need to deal with if you want to. I don't believe, sorry, I'm certain this council has not formed a formal position on that proposal. And I think the reason we haven't done it is it's not our land. We have no right to let them or not let them. We can have a view, but we don't have any authority. So we have discussed it informally. In my view, from the informal feedback, is that most people think that would be a benefit to the city as a whole, regardless of the technicalities of that other council dealing with all the matters associated with that open space and having a mob like LA Club on it, and leave those matters to them, I think. In terms of Blackfriars, one of our larger constituents, a big part of our community, I am the chair of the board, and the school has a lease over the playing services. So not the aquatic centre.
I accept you're speaking on that. I'm not having a question on that.
It's a bit complicated in a sense, because not the aquatic centre, not the trees and shrubs and paths and everything, not the playground, not the activity grounds, but the playing services. So when the media want to do a story about Adelaide Footy Club coming in, they want to know about its impact on Blackfriars lease, and so I get asked to speak on that leasehold area, which is probably about half of the total area of Park 2, but certainly not all of it. In terms of the other matters, if you wanted council to have a position, we don't. It's not on the radar to start to put a report up, but if you want to put a motion notice, council, then you could do something.
I'll just ask you that a little bit more so you understand that. Because I thought we'd come to an agreement with the Adelaide City Council and the government to use that area with the school and to do all those things there, then I thought perhaps we should have a position on it, because I don't even know the answer, because it fits into what we're talking about, so it does actually affect us, even though we don't own it. We don't have anything of it because we're working towards a plan for that area.
This is where it starts to get really tricky, because I just don't know how to answer that question.
All right, I'll ask it.
It's incredibly hard to get that $3.2 million that I feel like I personally had to wring out of the former minister. That money sits inside that other council's account, earning interest, not a centre that's been spent on improving a blade of grass on where we want it to be spent. My understanding informally is that council they feel unable to progress that project because there's so much doubt about the impact of the LA Football Club coming, even though they're not coming until they're approved to come there. Okay, so they're moving on hold. As a council, we have endorsed that project going forward. The last phase of it was a public consultation process around the second concept design, and that public consultation closed about, I reckon 2 months ago. So we could ask, I think the administration could ask on our behalf for the outcome of the public consultation, just to see where it's at. But informally, I know they are not advancing that as fast as they could due to the unknowns. They don't have a formal position on it, but they're not moving at speed.
Thank you for your sort of answer. Appreciate it. The other two questions I've got, but one is simple. Has the prospect vacancy come out yet?
I haven't got it yet.
Yes, it has come out, and we have, it was distributed about 2 weeks ago. And we put a post on Facebook out to majority of about 1,000 people, and we got everybody saying they had received it. And 5 people responded.
So just through the chair, I got mine from the library. I haven't got it at home. Just quick show of hands for members. Who has received it at home? Who has? Yeah, who has? 2.
Who has and who hasn't? Bang.
Who hasn't received it at home?
All right. Email too.
So I reckon there's a bit of feedback for you. The new system of undeliverable mail seems to have...
It didn't go through it. It didn't go through.
Unaddressed mail, might need to check on it. So did you have a further question?
Last and brief one, and the acting director might have to help with this. We done a, and it's not a survey, but for Redden and Rutherglen, we sent out the information for people to answer. It's not called a survey, is it, I think, to come back. And I wonder if that's closed and have we got a result of what, have we got what people have written back?
Yep, acting director.
Through the chair, yes, we've received all the responses and we did get quite a few phone calls about it as well, inquiries, just wanting more information. We're currently collating the results. As I recall, I think there's about 750 letters went out. So it was quite a large consultation. So we're now collating all that with a view of bringing the results of that consultation back to council at the next meeting.
Thank you. Just to follow on from the chair, can you give us some insight into the status of that project consultations? One thing, the other discussion with Dixie about the main road changes.
Sure. Through to the mayor. As you know, Councillor Harris and other elected members, we have had 2 public forums, and there was certainly a show of overwhelming support for us to progress this. So that's pretty much the position we've taken, hoping that the outcome of the consultation will be just supporting our position. So in the meantime, I've been liaising with DPTI, referring to how we're going to close that right turn on North East Road, because given we have been conversing with the community and using the word trial, a 12-month trial, I've been very clear with DPTI to say we don't want you to pour concrete, because that won't appear like a trial. So they will come up with a temporary barrier to remove the right turn, and then post 12 months, if the community still wants to retain it, they'll then replace that rubber curb with a concrete. I've also flagged with them that, having said that, DPTI are very supportive. I mean, they're very supportive of removing any right turn movements on arterial roads, but I've also flagged with them that they have to pay. Well, I want them to do something on Galway and North East Road as well. We're pushing for a right turn, not just an arrow. We actually want a right turn lane. So we've put forward to them an actual design versus just having a conversation. We kind of went, here it is. So I guess, behind the scenes, so to speak, just pushing that with DIPT to say, we want you to do this. Their position at the moment has been that they will monitor, once the right turn is removed, they will monitor the intersection, modify the signals to assist with the right turn movements, because at the moment it's only a part-time ban, I think from 7 till 9, and other times you can do a right turn. But it's not correct. It's correct, and most motorists are actually not confident or comfortable or feel safe to do that. So that is the push that is coming from us. So that is progressing.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Hope that answers your questions there, Councillor Bunnett.
Yes, has council received any further information on progressing the next lot of plateaus along Braun Road as part of the agreement with DIPT, and have been a bicycle boulevard?
Through the chair, as I'm sure you're all aware, there's a lot of history with the Braun Road, the bicycle boulevard, which I think we'd all agree is not a bicycle boulevard. And I've gone back through the history myself and saw that there was supposed to be somewhere between 7 and 8 plateaus along that stretch of Braun Road. I arrived right at the tail end of when that project had finished, and I think we've ended up with 3 disasters. DIPT's position now on anything, respectfully, the state government has reduced budgets, and they're not open to any further discussion on pretty much anything at the moment. Budgets have been slashed. It's not a project that they're even prepared to consider at this particular point in time, because the funds just aren't there.
Thank you. Councillor Barnett, anything further?
Similarly, has council heard any more news from DIPT or the Railway Commissioner or whoever about the electric railway project, and in particular Devonport there are some trees?
Yeah, right, just CEO to comment or something.
We had made extensive inquiries with the Minister. We tried to get it into his diary for ages. We now have a meeting set up with the CEO, just trying to think of his name, Braxton Smith. Yeah. So we've finally got some contact to where we can go in there and see them, and we'll be pursuing that, the 2 of us.
Thank you. Councillor Harris.
Oh, really? Well, I didn't realise you'd age that.
Is that plenty? Your turn.
I'm a Crow supporter. So a couple of quick questions. First one in relation to e-scooter trials. Can I just confirm whether Prospect has formally expressed their interest in participating in the e-scooter trial in the City of Prospect, and does that require a resolution of council?
We have got a very formal position at council, but I have been approached as mayor and some staff in discussions about scooter operators talking to us about whether we would or wouldn't. We put it back to them to say, well, what's your proposal? So
There's an email to the contrary of that.
There's an email that came out today which discussed registering our interest in that proposal. So whilst that doesn't commit us, we would then have to bring that back to council. We're proposing that we actually register our interest, but instead we take it further, we need to know who the operator is and all the other sorts of things that we want to do from a safety perspective to manage that. LGA has a position on that, and that's in the email, which goes through a number of conditions and bits and pieces that they pushed on a whole sector.
No, that's right. I put my eye late this afternoon, which is why I asked the question. So just to confirm, that would require a resolution of council to form the position.
To move that way, yes.
The second question is just in relation to a motion on risk I had several meetings ago relating to traffic around schools. One of the outcomes of that was to call a meeting with schools and the childcare provider on Olive Street. Has that meeting been called as yet?
It's in the resolutions report. CEO.
This is Olive Street.
No, this is the 6 schools, the resolution calling for coordination between the 6 schools around traffic around schools.
Yep. And childcare centres.
Just those. I just can't remember it off.
Yeah, I'm not aware that there's any progress on that.
At this point, there hasn't been. There was a proposal that occurred. if I may, our traffic officer recently resigned. So we're in the process of recruiting. So to be brutally honest, that might be delayed for a little while.
Yeah. There is a comment.
Yep. Just reflecting that the commitment was made for that to happen within a couple of weeks of that resolution, which is now a couple of months old. So I'll just leave that there. Third question is just picking up on the question from Councillor Barnett around the plateaus and Vaughan Road. Has Council received any complaints of vehicles mounting the footpath near those plateaus where there's no hard gutter to stop them doing so? Have we received any complaints on that?
Through the chair. Initially we did, particularly around the Prospect Primary School, and we did actually go on site and conducted some anecdotal observations. We did stand back and just watch, and then we actually engaged with drivers and helped part of the education process. We did also consider putting physical barriers, as in bollards or fences around the corner, and we actually think that might cause damage to the vehicles versus the driver behaviour improving. That was probably the first couple of months, I think 2 or 3 months of when I arrived. Thereafter, it seems to have settled down and we haven't received any further complaints.
I think damage to a car is better than damage to a child, but I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions about notice? Councillor Rick.
Just in regards to the following on from the question earlier on the Prospect magazine delivery from Councillor Harris, can I just, for the record, note what company did we end up using for that unaddressed mail delivery? Because I was under the impression that it wasn't Australia Post. Is that correct?
Through the chair, we're using Avato. They were the only company that would do unaddressed single-use plastic, and particularly would actually deliver in half suburbs, because we had an issue with Broadview and Sefton Park. We could have got Australia Post to actually deliver, but they wanted full suburbs, so they weren't able to do all of Prospect.
City.
Yes, as a city. Okay.
All right. I'll do those two straight.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you. Any further questions at 11? There's no limit, but just let you know, up to 11.
And we're on to cover others.
I feel like Parliament House.
Okay, there being none, I'll move on then. Question time's over. Item 14, minutes of committees, regional subsidiaries and other bodies. We have item 14.1, Eastern Waste Management Authority board meeting minutes. I'll be happy to move to say that we note the minutes. Those people. Deputy Mayor, wish to speak to them. So a seconder.
I move. Oh, second.
Seconder. Any further discussion? Thanks for the vote. All those in favour? Against? It's carried unanimously. Next one is item 14.2, Strategic Planning and Development Policies Committee meeting. The minutes there, recommendations on page 22. So we're happy to move.
So moved.
Speak to it, Councillor Group.
No, thank you.
Seconder, Councillor Barnett, wish to speak to it. Any further debate? Take that straight to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Is carried unanimously. Then we have reports for discussion. Item 15.1, order to borrow Local Government Finance Authority, recommendations on page 26. Somebody happy to move it in its current form? Councillor Barnett, wish to speak to it?
No, I may not be happy for it, but I'm moving.
Have a seconder?
Yeah, I'll second to get on.
So speak to it. Any further debate? Take it straight to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Is carried. It's nice to see a line with the 2 in front of the percentage.
Absolutely. I'll be happy with that.
The same line was 16.5%. 15.2, Broadview Sports Recreation Precinct, Yanta Tutu Yata Master Plan. There was going to be a revision to the wording on this one. There is, so we
An internal revision, so I can just say that that's a revision with input from key stakeholders.
So just to explain it, the motion came from Councillor Forbes endorsed to do to revise the master plan and bring it back to us. The draft motion could have been interpreted as doing a full community consultation process, which we wasn't asked for by the original mover. So just tied up the words to make it really clear that it's an internal process, talking to the stakeholders and make sure we've got those right. So those revised words is what we're now being asked to endorse, and that process is an internal straightforward process, and to change the drawing where it's not quite correct now, because the running track doesn't go where it showed on that drawing. The quicker nets as the drawing.
Can I ask a question just before?
I'll take, because we've had a change there, I'll take a question before I ask to remove it.
Okay, the drawing we got on, must be page 39, because, yep, page 39, taking away what you're talking about, the running track, like, that's, so in this revised thing we're looking at doing, and that's unless perhaps stakeholders change their mind, so that's the proposal we're looking at now. Would that be in this revised thing, that page?
No, this is the old drawing.
Right, one of the old ones, yeah.
The new drawing, that would be the result of going through this process of revision and bringing back a new master plan as decided through that process, but taking away those bits that have been delivered.
Okay, thank you. And I see the 8 to 9. So the couple of quick questions I have got, page 36, we're talking about the financial part here, the table 1 proposed funding, and this I believe goes into that grant about a PlayStation that's coming.
I'll just take brief questions because it's not on the floor, so you cut to the chase. Happy to start the suspending procedures if you want to get more discussion.
Well, I'd like to do that, please, because if we're going to go ahead.
I'll do that. So the seat to suspend your commission's suspend meeting procedures until say 8:30 should be needed. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Suspended. Carried.
So the table 1 proposed funding 700, 350, 175, 175, and if you look at that and the long-term financial plan, on a bit of one loss is that first one about the playground. We withdrew that thing and we're going to do a report later on. I'm assuming that's where the 175 business comes in. We're going to cancel another playground to put a playground here.
There was a proposal which is going to come back to us, but yes, essentially the one on Harvey Street, that won't get upgraded. The proposal is that money be reallocated to match this grant funding or part.
Okay, well then the long-term financial plan, so take that out of the picture, that's only going to do a playground. I actually disagree with that. I think we should do the other one, but my question was going to be about that. If we don't do that playground this financial year, is that money still there to do it next financial year?
Yep.
Yep.
Sorry, that is the intention, to just defer it for the 12-month period, given that we were successful with grant funding year. And so JW Ratley.
To defer the Harvey Street one.
Correct.
Right.
Just
It's
1 year.
not to can it to defer.
No, it's ready to go. It's ready to go. So just defer it, carry over into 2021.
Right. So not defer the one.
Well, hang on, that's news to me. I thought the proposal was not do Ratley, shift that money to get a start on this one. So can we just, where do we get to in a resolution sense? So I think we withdrew the item because it wasn't right around the other one, Charles Kane. What were we doing and how are we funding this?
Okay, through the chair, I just referred to the paragraph just ahead of that table that does say we're currently giving consideration on how council can deliver this important project and is identifying options in order to take advantage of the funding opportunity. So a report will be shortly presented. So the intention is to present, I would say this at the September meeting, a clarification of a recommendation of how we intend to fund this and what it means for JW Raleigh.
Okay, so we haven't made a decision?
Absolutely not. That's the intention, so that'll come to council as a recommendation.
Thank you. All right, then, thank you. Thanks. So then that just throws me then in a little mental confusion on the next page, it's page 37, long-term financial plan. Council, I'll read the paragraph to make it simple. Council's long-term financial plan proposes that 250,000 is allocated to the implementation of Broadview Sports and Recreation Precinct must in 2024. So nearly 4.5 years time. So if this picture here, and this is where I'm confused, a whole lot comes, that's still going to be about $14 million, most probably now only $10 million, but all that fits there. And to look at, and I won't read them out, there's 24, there's 25, and then there's 27, 28. I'm just not seeing, because this is due respect, because you weren't here, so real due respect, we didn't promise, but people thought we promised $14 million to build a bloody big oval and all these things, and reality was we didn't have that money, so it didn't happen. Similar plan, or if not the same plan. So I'm worried there that we're not even, the first 250,000 not even going to come to 24. How are we going to pay to do anything?
Well, that's a question for us, really. The council that endorsed that process to start didn't allocate a cent to this precinct. The former council thought that was the endorsed master plan, allocated money to the bike track upgrade, the BMX track upgrade, and the multi-purpose court and a couple of tennis courts upgrades. So that's been done as part of fulfilling this, but didn't allocate any more. And the previous council set in place a long-term plan which has some money going to the precinct over the 10 years, but not sufficient to fulfil the master plan. So unless that changes, or we get a grant, which is what we have been pursuing through state and federal election cycles, then we don't currently have a funded solution for the whole master plan.
But sorry, man. So, but to me then, for what I've got here in front of me, the first bit of money, not looking at any swapping playgrounds, the first bit of money is not till 24, 25 financial.
Unless we change it, that's correct.
Jeez.
So, Matt and Christine.
That's all. Thank you.
The next paragraph does say that Council's long-term financial plan commits to progress delivery of the entire master plan.
It's a bit.
Unless I've got my wrong glasses.
It does. Yeah.
It says that.
Yeah.
So assuming that.
It's a fluff statement, really, isn't it?
Can't say how to do it. Not even close. No, that's not correct. I'm sorry, CEO, but that's...
Got to pull that up. I'm glad you did. Yeah.
The tennis facility, I recall, was $3 million, and the footy club runs at 4. Just those 2 are 7. We don't have anywhere near that.
10 plus sort of the big project.
But just bear in mind that if you want to go for grant funding, they're not interested in wishing prayer proposals. They want to see master plans. They want to see community consultation done. They want a risk-free announcement. So you've got to do all this preparatory work. Ideally, you'd have the ability to fund this and have it in your long-term plan, but we don't, and we haven't. But we have to do it to attract state and federal money. So I don't have any problem with having a master plan that's not fully funded, but we shouldn't state that it is.
The next paragraph does confuse that more, because it says it was recommended the cost and estimates for 2014 be disregarded. So I don't know that we clearly haven't been clear on that point.
And just keep in mind, sorry, we have done some things, so the cost plan will change because some stuff's already finished.
Yeah, that's part of my point, is that I think somewhere we need to be clearer and upfront so that you can show the grant bodies that there has been money spent on it in terms of being a master plan. But, you know, there have been needs have changed because now we've got the doesn't look like tennis club most probably going to be able to get its golden egg because of the now Memorial Drive and the big push that's going to happen for tennis, the Commonwealth Games and all that stuff. But mind you, we should be putting our thinking caps on too about the Commonwealth Games and perhaps what things could happen here. There's a possibility of that. The other thing is that we now got even more pressure, I believe, from the Broadview Football Club about the replacement. You know, we have to ask ourselves, is it worth our money putting a new roof on something that basically, you know, the best part of the whole building will then be the new roof.
I think I've lost an argument, to be frank.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, the whole thing about, you know, about, this is what, but, you know, things have sort of been changing and whatever, so it's, you know, it's why we're going to have the internal meeting and meet again with stakeholders and just checking and saying, right, well, you know, you said this before, is that a big priority now? You know, was it something else?
I think the budget discussions are pretty clear, the advocacy is pretty clear, we've made a commitment to fund the roof, the roof's going to get done. The reason that we didn't do it prior to that budget was because we were waiting for a fairy godmother to come and help and replace the building. We tried during the federal campaign, we tried the state campaign, we tried doing the previous state campaign to that, and we just haven't had to land a cookie. Now, it's not because we've been inept. Nobody around us has got a cent. The campaign, I think the last state campaign, one of the candidates, one of the members in our area, didn't promise 1 cent to any group whatsoever. And that's now the most marginal ministerial seat in the whole parliament. We would have thought that would have helped our cause. Didn't. This seat here, we had a promise from the Nick Xenophon team in that election, and we had a promise from the most recent election from the sitting Labor. The Labor didn't win, so that's not been fulfilled. So we've tried and tried, but that pathway hasn't come through yet. But that doesn't mean to say you shouldn't have a master plan and be ready to keep asking.
Yeah.
So the roof's, just to say, the roof's going to get done. I mean, it just can't hold people out for years having a leaky roof. I think that's
asbestos.
I hope they'll keep putting up with it. We've got a responsibility for landlord.
Yeah. And the female change room, so as well.
But we all know the building's it's not good, which is why I will support the master plan having a new building charter. But we should talk to the footy departments and make sure they're happy with that, because they might say it's never going to happen. So why don't you put in the master plan to fix the building we've got? They might make a strong representation to that extent and might agree. So I think we should check that with them. But I think it should be a brand new thing. But I don't have fun.
Finally, I do notice that some of the other councils have been more successful in putting up not just for a strictly sports-based centre, but for a community centre.
Yeah, we've done that.
So, and I think that's from feedback from the Broadview people, is that they view it more as a community centre.
We've done all of that. And to be really, really blunt, the last federal election in South Australia, both parties only interested in Boothby. They've promised virtually nothing anywhere else, either party.
Scotty, isn't it?
In the last state election, this is a safe Labor seat. It's since had a by-election. Even in the by-election, we didn't get much of a promise financially for anything. So we've just not been able to land a blow, and we are not orphans. We're just not orphans. Federally, there is a really good program to fund things in the regions called the Building Better Regions Fund, and that's been in place since Coalition came to power. They cut the funding to metro areas, and they put that funding into regions. So we've not even had a federal program to apply to. The current government, they have put in place a no change rooms program under their primary health program, and so we have applied to that, and we've got some money for Charles Kane. So we need to keep asking, but we've been told we don't have an endorsed master plan, hence the resolution, get an endorsed master plan, and that means we need to check with the clubs as to whether they still want what's on there or whether they want something different. The advocacy pathway from them we can determine as a council. There's a rich history. Any further questions?
I know we're obviously in short-term suspension, but that goes to the exact point of why I put up the initial motion was that and a lot of people weren't aware that we never had an endorsed master plan, and it was just sitting there as a draft, and that's why I wanted to endorse it, because if you have an endorsed master plan that the whole council supports, you can take it further, and that was one of the reasons. The other reason was confusing around funding and the perception that comes with that because of the community that said, council went and promised, and I said, well, actually they didn't promise, but the perception out there was that we've got a $14 million master plan, we're going to fund it in the long term and go for state and federal money, where it's actually not the case. We have a long-term draft master plan, but it's contingent on extra funding coming in. So the council didn't have funding set aside in the long term to deliver the full master plan, and that's where I think the confusion and perception is out there in the community. Thanks for your comment, Christina, about the roof, because the issue with I guess the roof was, and exactly what the mayor had said. And then obviously the Broadview Football Club are coming to council and coming even to me saying, well, this mightn't happen for 10 years, this building. So our roof's got leaking air conditioner, the roof's leaking itself, and it's asbestos. We need it done now, it's a safety and hazard issue. So yeah, and I could see why, I can understand both sides of the equation about let's wait and see if we get any money in and then we fund it. So that's, I guess, the process. But it's confusion around funding, the perception, and the fact that we need an endorsed master plan. But my question to the administration is, if we go through this internal revision with all key stakeholders, how long is that going to take? Sorry, I just need that. Could that change the wording? The initial report.
With some references, I mean, if we pick up part of the through the chair, part of the consultation process, or that little map that has been offered.
But that's why I'm asking the question. Yeah.
At that particular point, it was present draft master plan to council seeking endorsement, referred to December 2019.
Yes, so it might be a little bit earlier than that.
So I mean, given we're removing some of those steps, I would suggest it would be.
I'd suggest, CEO, that item 2 have those words added to it after the word council seeking endorsement.
I was going to actually add that in the time, so you read my mind. Yeah.
At the end,
yeah.
Draft master plan to council seeking endorsement, rather than just keep having a draft, go around the table another time.
So before the end of the year, it's probably the answer, but as soon as we can possibly do that.
The CEO just reminded me, it's constating the obvious, the entity has had a huge impact on our potential to borrow money, and we didn't expect that. Around about now, if that hadn't happened, we'd be in a really good position to borrow money to do Broadview Oval. We're not right now, but we pretty soon, in terms of this cycle of council, could be. So it might be that in a year or two's time, we say, actually, you know what, we're going to do that design properly, and when we've got it all drawn up, we're going to go for funding, but we'll be much closer to getting it done, and then in 3 years' time, we might have the ability to borrow and a level of comfort to borrow to do it. So just remember, we didn't expect to be in this position going back 6 years when we started this process. Can I just...
Sorry. So the question, the drop from 18,000 to 9,000, is that because we're not using consultant, we're doing it internally?
Yes, that's correct. So that's through your worship, to reduce the load that we've got in terms of the intention seems to be that we want to just revise what's there and not complicate it. The difficulty would be going back to the community and sort of saying everything's on the table, let's start with a blank sheet of paper. Some may take that perspective and we don't want to do that. We just want to make sure that the major components are satisfactory and if we're missing anything, and so bring that back to council. If there are significant revisions which are going to mean that it goes to the heart of the master plan, we'll just note that and bring that back to council and say there were some comments around this, that and the other, but we're not proposing to open the whole process up again.
Okay, when we say, question please, when we say revision with input of key stakeholders, who are we then deeming the key stakeholders to be, and who at those clubs or organisations are we going to actually approach to be at the table?
So we'll be talking with the clubs, the major, the president and people who are actually running the process.
Like management committees. Okay. Okay. All right.
Yeah. And there's nothing to worship with this too. Sorry, past habits.
I was going to raise that.
Remind me there's nothing to worship. No worship.
Okay, I got told off using the name.
Sorry, we had another question.
Yeah, we're now doing an internal review. What's the $9,000 for?
So that's, in essence, that's if we need to do any consultation, but essentially it's the quantity surveying in terms of the price. So what do we get to in terms of that? We need to have a reasonably firm idea of what the price is, so that's going to take some money as well. We may drop some of that back into the pot. We'll only use what we need, but that's sort of taking a safe sort of approach and cutting out all the consultation and that process that we had before.
And to revise the drawing,
Because it's currently correct.
Right. Any further questions, comments? Can I just check that the purpose of these changes that are highlighted in yellow is to make it really clear that we're not commencing a new community engagement process. I think that's fair to the community. We've gone and listened to them all, but the drawing at the moment is not accurate and the draft plan's not been endorsed. So this is a matter of just saying, unless something fundamental has changed, we're just going to tidy the drawing up and get a revised number and endorse it. That's where we got to. Are people comfortable with that? Yeah. Cool. If there's no further comments, I'll pause back in the formal session. Someone happy to move it?
I was just going to say, can we please, with item 2, unless someone has to do it from the floor, but before we move back, can we actually put a date, like a set date for item? Have we or haven't? No. Okay. I'd like a firm date in for item 2, seeking formal endorsement, if we can, seeking formal endorsement of council by December 2019 to give the staff time.
Absolutely.
Not earlier. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't know. Pause back in formal session. Who wishes to move it? Councillor Rick, wish to speak a little further?
Oh, yeah, well, sorry, we moved there, actually. So if I can just get the... Yeah, look, really want to thank council for their support at the last meeting to get this underway, and I'm happy where it's at, and thanks to the staff for the explanation when we went to the informal session there. I really want us in the long term to be in the best possible position to attract state and federal money, and by that obviously we need a formal endorsed master plan by council. It will also hopefully through this process help to address some of the confusion around funding and perception that's been out there in the community for a while. And I really want this to be a master plan in the long term that we can be proud of, one that we can endorse that's ambitious. But also, if we're going to endorse an ambitious plan, in the long-term financial planning, we actually have to be able to show that we can actually fund a fair portion of it, whilst also putting it forward for state and federal money. So look, I won't say anything more at this stage, but I do seek your support so we can get this underway. It's for me, in the long term, I want to see Broadview. We've got Prospect as a great sporting hub with the Roosters. I really want to see this Broadview precinct be a really strong, not just for football, but you've got football, you've got the unused croquet land there, you've got the 2 tennis clubs. I really want this precinct to be one that we're really proud of in the long term, and we can put some funding to and really have an exciting sport and rec hub that we can be proud of in the long term. Thank you.
Councillor Harris, second. Second.
Yes, and not to add much more apart from what the previous speaker said, because I'm quite happy to go along with it. The emphasis I think everyone around here knows is we don't drop a word to say we're going to fund this and it's going to cost X million, but I fully support doing a master plan with it. The most important thing that I get a little bit worried about, and this will clear it up, is in that question too, that we do a internal thing and we go and speak to the stakeholders. And to me, pretty well now, because the others have died, the stakeholders are the bowling club, the Common Grove and Broadview Tennis Club and the football club, and possibly the cricket club. The other people aren't here anymore. And so we don't ask them. But the important thing to remember in that thing is the Common Grove executive, I'm not sure if that's what they call them on the tennis club, but the hierarchy of the Common Grove Tennis Club are all new people that had no part of this plan. The Broadview Tennis Club, one person, is new people to this plan. You know, they've been part of the club, but not this plan, but the previous way we went. The football club, even with Shane and these other people, are similar, but they have got people around. And the cricket club, I don't know, because I don't like cricket and tennis, so I don't know the answer to them. But the fact is, it might not take 10 minutes to get this thing together, because you might be starting to explain to some people that know very little of it from the beginning to the end. So it might take that more time to go through it. But I'm more than happy to see where we plan to go, because this time, and there'll be a fair up there in November or over November, and we'll be able to say to people, we finally got the final plan, and now we're going to see how you people, residents, are going to help us to put it together. So I'm hoping everyone endorses the way we're going with this thing up in front of us.
Thank you. Any further debate? You wish to sum up, Councillor Ripp?
Thank you.
I'll put the vote in. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We appointed an independent chairperson to the Waste Board. I'd like to seek your indulgence to suspend meeting procedures in this one for just a short discussion until 8:45 should be needed. All those in favour? Against? The thus suspended. And just to say at the outset, I'm a bit troubled by this one. I understand and know the proposed chair, the current chair, the proposed chair, Ryan Cunningham. So he's been around with a few different industries a lot, and you know, he's a very worthy bloke. But the issue here is we've been asked to endorse an independent chairman, and I note that it's already been an issue in terms of managing conflicts of interest, and I think they've been managed well. That he is also the chair of the Northern Areas Waste Management Authority, one contract recently to receive all of our recyclates. So there is, all over the next several years, going to be a conflict any time, I think, not just the contract comes up, but how recyclates are valued and dealt with and where they end up and all of the issues associated with the recycling part of what East Waste does. Not the green waste or the hard waste or the other stuff, but that bit there. And I'm just a bit, just want to let you know, I'm not as comfortable with this as the current ministers in the to reappoint Mr Cunningham, particularly when the role is as an independent chairperson, and I'm not sure that that's the case. They're declaring conflicts of interest already, so clearly the level of independence is not there as far as I think it could be. So I wasn't sure what other elected members were at with that, but
So,
I can't amend it from the floor, so I've got to just go on.
yeah, so in my reading of it, so there has been legal opinion, and so it does seem to sort it out, but I think he may be explained to the complicated in future, because this is,
But it's just,
a lot will happen in 2 years in terms of where the industry is at.
I think you can try and manage anything and manage it really incredibly well. But the title's called independent chairperson. Now, the interpreter is saying that independent from East West, in other words, not a staff member. But I think it's to be interpreted more broadly, that they're not a member of a council who's a member of East West. I get, so I think, okay, that's good. Well then, why would you allow a member of a company that we pay money to be the chairperson? So if you don't allow a mayor or an elected member to be a chair, or even a staffer, how can you justify a member of or a chair of a company we're dealing with? To me, it doesn't make any sense. You might as well say make it a mayor or a staffer to be the chair.
Is the actual wording, I didn't have time to check, or whether I could find the Constitution. Is the wording independent chairperson actually in the Constitution? Or they just...
We'll check that while you're talking. We'll just check on that.
Yeah, because I think that's important, because if they've just grabbed onto it, it's trying to highlight that it's independent.
Good question, but that's the terminology they put to us with the capitalisation I and C.
I did check.
Sorry.
I'll just correct while we're there, that there's a mistake on page 42 where they talk about the city of Burnside. It's actually Prospect, so just to know that we're talking about ourselves.
Yeah, sorry, it was Matt and then Bob.
Yeah, I think it feels like an unnecessary risk I agree with the part 2, or part 1 and part 2, but with regards to further C, it seems like an unnecessary decision or risk to make, and I think that it should be enough qualified chairs in Adelaide to fill that spot, so that we don't have to go down that path of someone leaving the meeting for every second agenda item. And there's a lot of intertwinement and interwovenness amongst the various aspects of this whole supply chain. So it might be fairly obvious in one instance that there's a conflict, but then 3 or 4 parts removed down the track, there's something that pops up that we wouldn't want to have to answer questions, which makes us feel uncomfortable and we don't really need to. I think so. My position is that we should endorse the first and second part of the motion, but the third part, I think we should say that we do not endorse the reappointment of Mr. Ryan.
Refer to choosing. So we're happy with the
so you
3.
just move on and turn you leave 3 out. And,
Or we amend the motion to say that we don't endorse.
I think we've got to be clear that this thing's happening right now, currently. I've asked for a 3-month extension of his current term, really just to sort of hoping that he'll get the nod to go back in. So if we say no, that's going to get back to them quickly. So they should understand it's not just that we deferred an item, we've said no. We want to do that, and then they can consult other people. There are other members. However, you might be a minority view. I don't know. Robin and then we, and then Mark.
You sort of covered my question. When was he appointed as other role? What date?
The normal role.
So he's acting as a chairperson, independent chairperson at the moment. So
for this East West, it's been 2013. But for Norma, I don't know. But it's been years, not months.
I had the impression he was Norma before.
I think that's right. And Norma wasn't intertwined with East West back when that arrangement started.
Yeah, so it's completely independent. But now we're intertwined.
Now it's intertwined, yeah.
well, if we don't, sorry, do you have
no, city office.
So then, please.
I'm just wondering, how long is the process? How long would it take to recruit a new person? And it says there it's expensive. How expensive? Right.
So yeah.
Look, I don't know about their processes, but to recruit someone, if they put an advert in the paper, They're up to about $5,000 or thereabouts, a substantial one. So the whole process is more about their time, I think, rather than direct costs. And so going out, getting those expressions, and then deliberating on and getting back to the board in time. So really, not the costs aren't substantial. It's more their time, their board in doing the recruitment and selection process.
If we agree part 1, part 2, and give him an extra 3 months, that will give them time to start the recruitment process?
I'll think so, and probably conclude it. It's not like you have to give notice. This is, you're chairing a meeting that's every month. It's like, so it should be pretty rapid take up. And I also assume that if Mr Cunningham can't make a meeting, that there's someone who will step into the role of the chair. So even if there's another month after September that the constitution could fill that role. Yeah.
So as long as the conflict's managed, I'm not too fussed, because I think everyone in this room has conflicts from time to time. I think it's more of an annoyance than anything else, but I do agree that it's not a good look from a perception point of view. I just think maybe as a bit of a alternative option 3 is that should Mr Cunningham want to extinguish the conflict, we would be happy to endorse him for a further period. So if, for example, if he wasn't the chair of Norma, then there's no conflict, and then I'd be happy to endorse that. So he can either choose, as he wants, like from a prospect point of view, he can either be the chair of Norma or of East Waste, but we don't think he should be both. And then that puts that decision back to him rather than to us.
That's a good point.
That's a bit more rewording to part 3 than just say nice.
I just think if he extinguishes the conflict, then we're happy to support him. If he doesn't extinguish the conflict, then the answer is no.
From a wording perspective, the council does not endorse the reappointment of Brian Cunningham while he is the chair of Norm.
Yeah.
Well, I think you need to separate that one for that wording to say council, something along the lines that council does endorse the reappointment of Mr Brian Cunningham, that if he relinquishes, shall he not relinquish, then we do not endorse. So I think the wording needs to have the 2 options there, and then the decision goes back to him.
Isn't it more to the point that it's only because he's chairperson of Norma and chairperson of ours while we're interacting? So if there comes a point in the next whatever that we're still, again, separate, Norma separate, and we do our separate thing.
True, but I think he's supposed to sign a contract with them for
Yes.
I think.
And I'm not sure if Norma's not a competitor in the normal
3 years of Norma.
normal circumstances anyway. Which is another different conflict.
So the Norma contract is the extent of the reappointment, and then another year. That's 3 years.
So just on it, can I ask, so under normal circumstances, is Norma a competitor for East Waste? Because that arises as a different conflict for me.
No.
Or a potential
They
competitor.
run trucks. They run trucks for the councils that constitute them, which is Salisbury, Layford and Fishery Gully, I think. There's 3 councils that constitute. So they run, they're the East Waste for those 3 councils, but they also operate a materials recovery facility. And they have built that bigger than what those 3 councils need, and now they're taking 22 councils recycling stuff. They're doing a great job.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no reflection on that.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. But I think Mark's got a good point. I mean, if the conflict wasn't there, then he would be independent.
Yes. Well, how should we go into that?
I think the point that Steve was making was that if you say not endorse whilst the conflict exists, if he removes the conflict, then our motion is still that we don't endorse it. So do we have it in 2 parts to say?
We could say that council endorse the reappointment, however, not while, it's going to be a bit confusing, but not while he is a chair of the.
And then you need to have, so you have, what I mean is you have it like that, and you have it, shall Mr Cunningham remove the conflict, then we endorse. So you're basically putting the decision back to him. We don't endorse you while you've got the conflict, but we do endorse you if you get rid of the conflict. Is that, I think you were alluding to?
Yeah, happy to. So however, should this conflict be resolved?
Satisfactory.
Should this conflict be resolved satisfactorily? How we would endorse it.
Just really, this is technically getting tricky. I'm just going to call a brief adjournment for 5 minutes while the CEO and I and Secretary doing a kid sorted.
Thank you so much.
I'd just like to thank you, Jazz, for finding the definition of independence as far as fair constitution is concerned, and it's set up in legislation because it is a regional, what are they called? Regional subsidiary, right? It says one independent person who shall be the chair appointed jointly by absolute majority of the constituent councils for the period and an expiration is eligible for reappointment, who is not an officer, employee or elected member of a constituent council. So that's their definition of independent.
Well, he could be classed as an officer, but he of
Could say is an officer of a contracted entity, but that's not in their definition of independent. It's an officer, employee, or elected member of a constituent council who has expertise in corporate financial management or general management or waste management or transport fleet management or public sector governance or marketing or economics or environmental management. So he's got expertise in general management and public sector governance, at least, probably marketing, we could maybe do a vote. So he meets the criteria.
Yes, he was a TAFE the director.
Oh yeah, he's done some serious roles. But just in a quick chat with the CEO, I thought if we're going to make this point, we really should say that this should be changed to reflect the independence we're referring to in part 3, that it can't be in it. I don't think it can be independent and be part of a contracted entity. Now he's the chair, not the CEO, not an employee of Norman Peter, so clean it up. Clean it up. So we just added a point 4 if you're okay with that.
No one's moved this yet.
So no, people just have a look at that. Eastern Place. Sorry, East Place. East Place? East Place.
It's in 3.
So what is their formal name? Because it's East Place. So the River Authority.
Should we say at the end? Shall I remove that conflict? So simplify. Yeah. Oh yeah, because it's endorses on the thing. Subject to, okay, that's right, yeah, that's right.
Just get that tied up. Excellent. Let's pull us back in the formal. Is any more comments, questions? That pulls back in the formal.
Just a thing, and I was going to let it go, but we're authorising him, we're happy with him doing it for another 3 months, and September's only 1 month. I know it most will be meant for July the 1st, but you know, we're only going to vote on this now for a 3-month period, and then we put September.
Point, isn't it?
Until.
We can take the date out of part 2. Just repeat off.
Take out until 30th.
Yeah.
No, leave that bit.
Sorry, please. Take out after
The next bit.
Period. Oh, yeah, okay. That's a good pickup.
We'll take effect from the date of our resolution, and they can deal with that at their end. Oh, hang on, sorry. That's the old part 3. Sorry, Jazz. Yes. Formatting here just got me there. Okay, so there we go. Part 1 as it was. Part 2 as it was, except taking the date off the end. Part 3 has been modified to pick up that subject to, and part 4 is to try and bring that into the actual charter. Okay. Back in formal session, somebody happy to move that way? Deputy Mayor, wish to speak to it any further?
I think we've discussed it. So much.
Do I have a second? Councillor Bunyan, wish to discuss it any further? Any further discussion? I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Against, is carried. Item 15.4. This is a review, we thought just to be really clear in part 2 that the word repair should be modified. Just the repair, let's talk about a little change to the curving on the turn left into
Talking about a bit more than that.
just in terms of this recommendation, the intent was that that little hard bit of curve be modified to reflect the report. You want to do something else with it, that's good. Somebody happy to move this as it is, to get it on the floor?
So moved.
Councillor Brooks, wish to speak to it? Seconder? Deputy Mayor, wish to speak to it? Councillor Harris.
Yes, I met with Simon up there and we've gone through, I've got this paper which I'm assuming is the same as in here, it's got the actual photos. Yep. There is, in there, there's a couple of other recommendations that happen and I'm meeting there where we receive and note the report. I'm happy with council endorsed retaining traffic advice this time, red, same line and so. But in amongst it, it was the discussion of no page number, item something, but on the next one in the discussion sort of came an attachment come that there were some things that were going to, the vegetation and what had happened at this time, in fact, straight after what happened when they went, I think next week or following week after, they went down and they trimmed what you can see on page 1. On the attachments, you can see how they've trimmed down the bush. Yep. And there's one by the telegraph pole on the right-hand side that is well down, well trimmed and good. The other ones now are just starting to grow, so give them another 3 weeks, they won't be like that, and they're already that much higher than the others. So between myself and the director down, there's about four or five bushes there that will come out. So it's not actually in the writing here. They will come out and plant a couple of other things, similar bushes, but keep them small, you know, as the other one. The thing that you've used in the motion signage, that remedial work, there's the 2 sides. One photo, well, the best photo I suppose is looking on attachment 12, page 9. On the top one, with our discussion, where the giveaway sign is, that's the little B sign on the right, is actually taken a bit off of that corner. Not much, but a bit. But particularly on the one on the, where the bent over sign is on the left, is making that a bit more rounder, for want of a better word, but adjusting that gives some form of movement in. The white line that is not on here, and I might have hardly been there since 2010, the white line has to match the yellow signs that we put up. And I think you were sitting alongside me when we done that, Dave. We put up yellow signs that showed the main road, Ballard Street into Howard Street, with a little line, which doesn't give you the right of way going north of Howard Street. So that has to be replaced properly.
The white line going around with a little break in it.
Yeah, no, with no break. No. Because then that's Balfour and Howard have the right of way.
Sorry, carry on. We'll get those law.
As the signs that are already there, the signs that we put up. So if that's done, the director, we went and looked at the yellow line and he worked out where it's going to go sort of thing. So that was all right. But the couple of things just to add is they wanted to knock off the spruit. They wanted to sort of knock off that left turn, which people would scream about. But on that picture I showed you on page 9, the greatest thing is the give-way sign down this end. When the cars come from north, they get to the give-way sign and they go to give way to the other car, but the other car wants to come in there and you're at the give-way sign. So there needs to be a whole readjustment somehow of that. But they have said in their recommendation, Sprout, that at a later stage, and that's what I'm endorsing too, at a later stage, endorsing re-looking at the actual thing.
Yes.
People that are new here, I'm going to finish with, I have looked constantly there once a month for the last 4 years, and there's been not one can of spray grow up through that bitumen. It just doesn't grow. I'm sorry, but there's no growing bitumen. But I think residents will be happy if we lower the bushes, and under the road track, what are the various Australian standards, the most important thing that will come is when the house is sold, a block of land sold on the corner, and they put a fence. And under the standard, the fence has to be down low enough, far enough back, and that's very important. So apart from that, I endorse it. Very disappointed actually in Sprout, whoever they come, they charged us money and they went for one visit 3 times a day for 1 day and looked and came up with their decisions. So once at morning, once at evening, once at night. So hopefully we get a good deal. So I'm endorsing it as it is with those things that Simon has said will fit into it.
Thank you. And I'll just point out part 3 is about preparing an alternate design. Consider, so that's captured. Okay. Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor Rick?
Look, first of all, I want to thank the administration for the report and the information. I just wanted to clarify the reason I didn't move to get on forward is I was just unsure and wanted some clarity around point 2 and point 3, where point 2 it says that we endorse returning of the traffic control device at this time, and then point 3, and I'm not sure what at this time sort of means, because in point 3 we're preparing options for an alternative traffic control device. So is the view of my question to the administration, is the view of the administration that that traffic device isn't a good solution for the long term and we need to look at alternatives? I just want to get some clarity around that, what the administration's thoughts are around that, or is it we retain this unless we can find like a suitable option? I just want to get some clarity on that. My thoughts of the administration.
Through the chair, the device is actually designed and constructed in accordance with standards, so it is actually, technically it is correct. However, given that the community is coming back now and saying we're struggling on our behaviour as drivers, on who gives way to who, and it's causing confusion to motorists, it's not inappropriate to say, hey, let's have a look at an alternative. Considering that there is the vacant land there on the corner as well, and we don't know what would happen with that, there is an opportunity to explore a different device. But right now, we certainly weren't recommending that we remove this. Leave it as it is, but let's explore some other options for future, because that would require a budget commitment as well, and consultation and so forth.
Okay, look, that's given me the clarity. I'm happy then to support all 4 recommendations. And look, the feedback I've had, and I know Councillor Harris would have had similar feedback, we have talked together on it, is that people are confused with the intersection. I'm glad that obviously the administration did some initial trimming, because that was one of my major concerns when I was coming from later on Howard to continue on Howard, and you're looking at the right, you couldn't even see the traffic coming. You had to pop yourself out into the intersection to see because of the vegetation. So really, thank you for addressing that issue. If that can be maintained, that's really, really important. There's a lot of feedback on that. The other feedback I've had is people are confused, particularly on Howard when they continue. Are they supposed to indicate right and way? Who has to right of way? Particularly too for cars coming down Balfour and then continuing on. there's near misses because you can sit there on Howard and again you have to creep out into the intersection. So if you're on Howard wanting to continue onto that device to keep going on Howard, you have to creep out to see what's coming on the left. Like the visibility is poor, so people are concerned. Cars coming from Balfour quickly doing a real quick turn, and you've got cars creeping out to actually see if someone's coming down on the left. I think it's a hazard, and I know that's been the overall feedback that I've had. And if that's the best advice we've got at the moment, then yeah, look, we've got to accept that. But if we can look at alternative traffic control devices and options, that would be I know that would be what the community want. Thank you.
Further debate? Councillor Barnett.
As one of those who nearly got wiped out, I'm all in favour of us preparing an alternative traffic control device, but I appreciate that because it's come from a petition, that part two, that just for the time being, will try and make it even a bit safer. Again, as been said before, it's not very clear about who does what. I mean, most of us, sure, would be fairly reasonably sensible people, but of course you can't legislate against. So again, it's people that just come blindly around, turn into, for example,
Balfour.
yes, from Balfour into Howard. And they just don't even stop. They see, there's nothing coming through the device, and just,
Yep.
and that's how I would like that. So I appreciate you both of this.
Councillor Wynne.
I visited the site before this actual meeting, and I found that the giveaway sign at the present really confusing. We do something immediately, if possible, to bring that giveaway sign back down further south. I think that will cause less confusion because people Howard, if we can do that as soon as possible, that will be really great. Just to avoid people crossing through that intersection. So I found that a bit confusing.
Yep.
Further debate? Right, okay. Councillor Group, wish to sum up.
Thanks.
Close the debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Just reliving. Who was around when we did all this before?
Esteemed speech.
Okay, item 15.5, strategy to address abandoned shopping trolleys, recommendation on page 67. So we're happy to move it as presented to us. Councillor Wynne, wish to speak to it?
Thanks for the report coming back. I read it and I think it's an issue. I don't think it's a minor issue, but happy with the recommendation. Like we can start with the community education and trying to build that communication, the relationship with the retailers to see if there is an improvement. The financial implication, if we were to design some brochures, some design, hopefully that will get it out into the community. I look forward to seeing some kind of resolution and working with the community just to solve this issue. And it's right, it's not a major issue compared to the City of Marion and some other councils, but it is an issue.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Barnett, wish to speak to it?
Yes, I think it's, it's all relative. Like if we're a City Marion Council, obviously bigger problem to us, but you just have one abandoned trolley that goes out onto the road. It could be dangerous. I go down this once a week to North Park Shopping Centre, so I regularly count 5 is usually the minimum. And they're only about 20 metres, 25, 50 metres from the shopping centre, so it's pretty obvious. I think they're either parking their car there and then loading up, or they live there. But I would be personally happy if we advocated, and it could be at the LGA level, to have all shopping centres trolleys that have the automatic computerised stopping, so you just cannot take them out of the supermarket. Stop. That's it. So I think that would be sort of, you know, you can educate people when the cows come home, but honestly.
Yep. I agree.
Thank you. Any further speakers? Councillor.
I just want to thank Councillor Nguyen for bringing this to our attention. So I do agree from your initial motion in this report that abandoned strip trolleys are an issue in the community, and agree with Councillor Barnett's comment too around this, that you can educate, as you put it, so the cows come home. But yeah, at the end of the day, in the long term, let's hope that we can get some serious action on this issue, and thank you for bringing it to our attention.
Thank you. Can I ask a question from the Chair, the Director of Planning and all good things? Are we have as a planning condition that they have to have a coin deposit trolley system, or a trolley management system as a planning condition?
Through the Chair, interesting question. The development plan certainly wouldn't speak about specifics in relation to trolley management. But there may be an opportunity for a more generic solution, so not to quantify, you know, very specific, unless it was part of the implementation that we're proposing. But it's probably not beyond the powers of what we can do. If there's a new supermarket proposed to have some kind of generic condition around the community outcomes as a result. Yeah, trolley management. So much like we do in landscape, sort of outside the building issues.
Yep, and just a follow-up question, I would have raised that with playing the same in the context of the reforms, whether they're able to incorporate some kind of assistance through that regulatory framework.
If you're concerned about that question.
Any further debate on this item? Councillor Nguyen, you wish to sum up? That concludes the debate. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. 15.6, Council Member Conference Opportunity. Councillor Pearce is going to get a cup of tea, I think. Recommendation 887.
So moved.
Councillor Group, wish to speak to it? I will second it. Councillor Harris, wish to speak to it? Okay. Further debate?
Be time for him to boil the kettle.
Just from the Chair, I've asked this to be sent out because I'm really committed to us being as well trained and developed as we can get. I know it's not easy to get time away from work if you're working on a full-time job. I think a council that's good enough to have a budget to enable us to go to things is a good council. You should take note of that and use it as best you can. And Councillor Pearce, please hand up for this one. You'll notice it's not the local government conference per se, it's related, and I'm a really big supporter of that. If it all go just to local government stuff, I think we should be going quite broadly for things. So please keep your eyes open for these, bring them up. Yes, it costs money, but I think it's just a great investment in us as decision makers on behalf of our community. So I wholeheartedly endorse it. But I encourage all of you to find something at least one every 2 years that you're.
I think there was a mental health one that was emailed around as well.
Yeah, there's mental health, there's homelessness, there's planning, there's economic development, there's a raft of stuff that we could, parks and rec, there's all sorts of wheels that we could be. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on this one? If not, Councillor Reid, wish to sum up? Councillor Pearce. So I'll take back.
Look, it's such contentious debate, Robin. Yeah.
Councillor Pearce, you are off to wherever it is.
Don't quite that direct.
So giving someone a Christmas present of a suitcase, isn't it? It's like, get out of town. Good luck with the conference. It looks like a great event. Item 15.7, the amendment to the community land management plan portion of the Park Gardens commercial use. Recommendations on page 92. So I'm happy to move it in its current form. Deputy Mayor, wish to speak to it?
I wanted to move to get on the floor. Probably sum up. I'm interested in hearing what the other working members have got to say.
So I'll second it.
Well, I'll second it to get on the floor as well.
Thank you, very grateful you should speak to it.
Yeah, I do. I've got a few things I just to get some clarity. On page 97, they talk about the figure to do the work, and they talk about 44,000, which would be paying half. Well, on page 155, they're putting an application for 96,000, which is the movement of the transformer and platform. So I'm not sure what the difference is between those two figures.
Can I just get a clarification for you there about payment? I'm briefed that we are not offered to pay anything. We've got told them there's no money available.
Correct. Yep. Okay.
No matter what number they use, it's zero from us.
Okay, well, that's great. So I'm fine with that. I'm not particularly happy, with the idea. From my reckoning, I think the developer would not keep the cafe as such, so they would on-sell it. So we'd be leasing to a new person in the cafe. Don't want to be negative, but if that fell over and the business closed, we're stuck with that structure until we dismantle it. So I'm not particularly happy with it at all. So I'll just let it go for debate and make those comments.
Thank you. Further debate, Councillor Harrison. Good.
Yeah, look, I'm opposed to it, and my reasons, and I thought we actually opposed it before, but I'm not. I just thought that, and I'll leave that as that. But I've put in here a lot of pink stickers, and I'm not going to go to every one of them. But I'm opposed to it because the park is a park, and it's green, even though listening to Alison and yourself and that, and we've got paths are going through and we can improve it and all those sort of things. And I support them actually, but it's a park. And what I've got marked here, David, is about 4 comments you've said when we're dealing with other things. The prospect's very limited on its park area, of having just an area. It fits into my thing about the crows going to the other place. We have a time will come with building all these places we have with one car park and no backyard and all that, and that's the way life moves. So the green areas are going to be so important. It's just not funny to me that we've got an area that most people was happy to start from where they're building their building, and it will go down to opposite them. I think there's new units and all that going next to the town hall part, the council chambers, and going down there, and that's all good. So we stick this thing out into the park at the beginning, once they shift the power box or whatever, onto the path next to a bus stop and things like that. If it doesn't work, what happens then? I think Christina asked, I should say Councillor Barnett over here, but Christina asked some questions, what happens, can we use it at night time and other times when they don't use it? And the answer is basically no, because it's a private sort of setup. So that fits to what you're saying, if they go belly up or something like that, we'll just have a thing that's sitting there. But my main concern is it's a park, it's a beautiful park, and I don't like roses, but it's got fantastic roses in it, and hanging wisteria, white wisteria actually, and various other things. So I think it's just so important that we keep parks as parks. And someone's going to come up in a minute and say, or staff, or someone's going to say, oh, but not many people sit there, or not many people use the back corner and back corner. It's the park, and it's there, and it's green, and it's in our neighbourhood. So I'm opposed to building something in there.
Any further speakers? Councillor Wood.
Thank you. Look, I'm also going to speak against the motion. I'm not supportive of this. In fact, I was just reflecting on the last conversation we had about this and was just trying to think back to that fairly awkward debate, which I think was a very narrowly one. So I don't think by any stretch it was certainly a majority of council approved the paper. It had to in order for it to be approved. But I think the sentiment on the night was very similar to what we're hearing now. The other interesting thing, if you can turn your mind back to February, was that there was an amendment made on the night by Councillor Ripp, which actually removed the words including the construction of a deck. And so I think we just need to put that on public record. So this paper actually talks about the deck quite prominently, but we removed that from the recommendation from the last council meeting that considered this. So at that time we said we weren't interested in having a deck on that land. I'm not supportive of it for a couple of reasons, and I'm just going to reiterate what's been said. Number one is that it is encroaching on our green space, and we have the council with one of the lowest levels of open green space per capita. And I think as we increase, as we are doing right next door to this site, increasing density and increasing population, we need to preserve as much green space as we can. I've always spoken in this council about no net loss of green space, and I don't see something offsetting the lack. I know it's only 30 square metres, but I don't see anything offsetting that lack of green space. I think there is an issue around the commerciality of it, and so that if the cafe doesn't work there, for whatever reason, I certainly hope it does, but if it doesn't work there, then we are left with infrastructure, which someone like a developer will come and say to us and say, we'll gift this to you, council, well done. And then we're stuck with the maintenance or working out liability for it, and I'm not supportive of that. I think there is an expectation, and there has been all along, that council will help pay for some of the removal costs of the transformer and other costs, and I'm dead against that. I won't support any budget motion now or in the future to remove that transformer if this gets up and proceeds. I don't think we should be paying anything for that removal, because I don't think council benefits materially, financially or directly from the deck being on there. In fact, I think we lose amenity. So I just don't think it's a good idea. I think we're losing green space. It's a risk for us in the long term. And I was, as I said, really happy with business models that put cafes on main roads, under big buildings. I have no problem with that at all. I just think they need to do it within their envelope of land and not encroach on the council. So I won't be supporting it tonight.
Further debate? Councillor Barnett.
Ditto for me from what Councillor Bruton said. I'm not in favour of this at all. I just think, some of the questions that are raised, I don't think have been answered properly. I still think that it was built there and we had with some kids around there. If somebody from the cafe or the apartment block going to come out and say, nick off, you don't own this, and yet it sticks out into our park. What I will be supporting the spot to is alluded to about actually having a look at redoing Barker Gardens, perhaps making it a little bit more useful other than what it is at the moment for weddings. And I noticed that when we had our Christmas decorations in there, it was amazing the number of people that were actually coming in there and taking their selfies without very low cost Christmas decorations. So I thought things can have some other interaction with people using it. So I think keeping in mind from whence it came, it was bequeathed to us from a resident. And although she could probably, or even the council at the time, envisaged that there'd be a huge apartment block and cafe there, such as some times. But I think they've got quite sufficient space there to run it. And they should have perhaps designed it better, not on the, thinking, oh, well, we'll get this deck out there and to expand it. So I'm not happy at all with supporting any others.
I
do share the same views. I think it's really important that we preserve our green space. We don't have a lot of green space, so why are we allowing such development? So I'm not supporting this tonight as well.
Ditto previous comments. I won't be supporting it either. I think it sets a precedent for a slippery slope, And yeah, look, I think we need to be preserving as much of our open space as possible for to be used for those reasons. It's not, in my opinion, for commercial use in this form. And yeah, I won't be supporting it.
Thank you. Just briefly, I have an alternative. I'm actually really supportive of this. I think it's exactly what that park needs. I think the Christmas decorations are a really good example of put something attractive in a park and people will come to the park. The arbour gets used by people for weddings, doesn't get used really by anybody else. So this is a great way of saying, how do we get more people to enjoy the very small amount of space we've got? Here, that came up with a better idea. These people are putting a multi-million-dollar building next to it, saying we could open up our cafe to your park if you want. Works for us, could work for you. I think it would. Whether it's a deck or whether it's paving at grade, well, that's another discussion I don't know. I'm surprised. No, obviously it's going to go down. Just to let you know, I think it's actually a good idea because I like to see our parks busy and full of people, really busy, being loved. And that's part of our strategic plans, to have loved public places. And most times I drive past it, I drive past it a lot, there's not a single person in it. And I think if this is not the way to activate it, then what is? And that might cost us a lot more money to do whatever that is. In terms of green space, it's a funny part to argue the green space. I'm not going to argue the principle. We don't have a lot of open space, but this is a park that's got a huge wide road running in it. For reasons which I don't know why, but it runs from Prospect Road into the park. It's about 6 metres wide. It's just gravel. I don't see too many people lying around and having a picnic. I don't see anyone using it at all. I don't know what it's there for. If we want more green space, you think we'd start with that and get rid of that and make it lawn. But no one's ever suggested that. So I just sort of want to push back a little bit. If we want more green space, we'll start with our own. And no one's ever said, let's fix that silly funny thing. This would create an attractor. It would take up, yes, some grass, but you could easily say, we'll put 3 times as much grass back where that road is and fix the grass issue, the green space issue. What I wouldn't like to see happen is we thumb our nose and say, well, you do all your own cafe stuff on your own land, and they put a colour-blind fence up between the cafe and the park and say, well, you don't want us, we don't want us. Meanwhile, we'll give someone an outdoor dining permit on a footpath just down the street or across the road. That's public land. It's open space. People use footpaths, but we have been encouraging people to have outdoor dining on footpaths wherever possible for the last several years. So I kind of get the issue here as much as some people feel about it, and I'm happy to maintain open mind about how we might activate our parks. To me, this seems worth exploring. I'm not at all in favour of paying public money to shift the transformer because I think that would cost a lot of money. But I'm not perturbed about having even a deck. Around. It wouldn't be able to be exclusive use, it wouldn't be able to stop people coming on it because it's no use to public land. Subject to a lease, so we get money off it. Is there any money off it? And we want to control the design so it actually looks good, not like a concrete sleeve or retaining wall or something horrible like that, which we actually build. We shouldn't. But to make the park look more beautiful and more usable, and a place where parents could have a coffee while the kids are running around the park. At the moment, that doesn't really occur. And I thought this would be a good way to do that. And yes, I think it would be a slippery slope, but we can happily get on and control. We have a tennis club in Memorial Gardens that we have encouraged to have a kiosk, but they don't want to do it. But if they did, we'd have a similar arrangement saying, well, you're going to need some tables and chairs and some flat space and whatever. How does that work? But they would bring something to that park that would give it an extended life. So I don't mind having these discussions. I thought this is worthy of doing a bit more work on it, but doesn't actually get up, so we'll continue the discussion. Another time. I think everyone's spoken, is that right, other than summing up? If you're there, that's you, if you wish to sum up.
I agree with the Mayor on this one, and I like to say I respect the opinions of the other people around the table, and I can understand the reasons, but knowing that park quite well, having grown up on WILLCOX Wilcox Avenue.
Does that give me a W?
Double L?
So I've spent quite a lot of time lurking around there as a Calais youth and catching the bus from out the front and living around the area now. I agree with the Mayor. The activation by the Christmas decorations was great, and people love the central part of it, and always have and always will. But the peripheral, particularly the southern side of it, is relatively useless as a park. And this organisation has come along and said, hey, why don't we do your job for you? Why don't we recognise what you've got in your strategic plan about increasing footfall? Why don't we recognise what you've got and what you want to achieve with regards to activating spaces? And why don't we do it for you? And what we're asking for is this part of the land. And I can see two scenarios in the future. I can see the scenario with the deck there or paving, whatever it might be, tables and chairs, and people sitting out there saying, isn't this awesome? I can see my kids out there playing in the park. I've just been to the library to playtime or Ryan time or toy swap or whatever it might be. And I've come over here for a cup of coffee and the kids are now running around the park getting some fresh air and some exercise into themselves. And I can sit down and relax. I can see where they are. We're outside. We're enjoying that. And then the other scenario is people sitting there, maybe not a 6 foot high sleeper slab wall in front of it blocking the view completely, but sitting there in some way, shape or form saying, gee, why didn't they do something here? I really wish that, well, it would have been a great idea. Why didn't they do it? And so I think I'd much rather the first option than the second option. I think there's probably not too much else to say except for the fact that these guys I don't think this is going to be an endemic thing that we're going to experience, because just doing a quick scan in my mind of the various parks we've got around the place, I can't see there's going to be dozens and dozens of situations where we're going to be encroaching in our own park lands. We have the smallest amount of green space in the city, yet we struggle with a very small budget to do anything meaningful with a lot of them. We constantly hear people, and not everyone agrees with this, but people talking about the Adelaide City Parklands, and there's two schools of thought. Leave them as they are. The other school of thought is how useless are some areas of city parklands because there's no budget to do anything meaningful with them. So thinking about getting the right balance here and thinking about the way that we can manage this situation, I'd really like to think that there's a way forward with this. You know, I'm not sure if we vote against this, we're taking this, that's my last question, if we vote against this, are we taking this option off the table for all time, or is there a public consultation process, or is there a compromise, or is it pretty much we either vote in favour of this and it gets up, or we vote against it and it's off the table forever?
I can't take a question signing up, sorry.
I was posing a theoretical question. And looking for a nod or a wink from someone. So I would like to ask people to reconsider their positions on this. I would respect that you may have formed your opinion already, it's too late, but I think this is potentially an opportunity that we might miss, and I would be voting in favour of it, and I'll go down with the sinking ship. That may be the case.
Yeah, that concludes the debate. All those in favour? All those against? Lost? Ships. Okay. And I thought it was a great speech, didn't you?
We put into the summary.
I think at some stage, CEO, you might want to come back and ask the question that wasn't asked about whether there are alternatives that might be considered.
Correct.
That's not a factor to do that here, but you work out when to do that. And not just here, but as a matter of principle, how we
We're permanently giving that away.
Okay, item 16 is the protocol. There are 6 items there, 71 and 76, and I will see if anyone wishes to withdraw any of them. Otherwise, I'll seek to get them moved on block by somebody. So does anybody wish to move item 17.1, items in brief? No, item 17.
Sorry.
Yes. Yep. Item 17.2, outstanding councillors' resolution report. There. Item 17.3, the Local Government Association Circular Procurement Pilot Project Information Report. No. 17.4, the small business development programs. Excellent report. No. 17.5, Wilcox LLW, development preliminary report. Sorry, Councillor, just asking if anybody wishes to withdraw items from the protocol. Item 17.5, the Wilcox development. Yes, for that. 17.6, Community Hub Library Innovation Centre project updates. Anybody wish to withdraw that? No? Okay, so now I'll seek someone to move on to block item 17.3, 17.4, and 17.6.
Can I just check on my agenda here? Sorry, we've got, unless it's conflicting, I've got set the item 17 as 1 to 6 of the items in brief. So we. No, that's different. Oh, okay. Sorry.
17.1.
17. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. I just got confused there for a second. Yeah, that's right.
So just to be clear, Councillor, seeking to move on block and bring out if you want to pull one of these out. The Local Government Association Circular Procurement Pilot Project Information Report, the Small Business Development Program Report, and the Community Hub Library Innovation Centre Project Update. So I'm happy to move on block. Councillor Harris, somebody wish to second that? Yep. Councillor Barnett, there is no debate, all those in favour, carried unanimously, thank you. And to item 17.1, items in brief. Deputy Mayor, do you wish to move it and then ask a question in second to it, or?
I'm happy to move it. I don't have any questions for it. I just wanted to say that I enjoyed reading items in brief. I think it's a good addition to our agenda. As long as we don't use that as a bit of dumping ground for things we otherwise sit on their own right and as a report. So as long as it's some sort of, I guess, some protocols around what can sit in there and what might need to sit somewhere else, I think it was a really good addition to the agenda. So well done for the suggestions, CEO.
Thank you very much. It's meant to be things where there's not necessarily a decision, but it also advises the public as well about these issues, which often they don't get an opportunity to hear about.
What's second it? Councillor Bruce, wish to speak to it?
Just to reinforce what Deputy Mayor said, I think it's a great addition.
Thank you. Yeah, just speaking briefly to it from the chair, I have a protocol that if I get something from the minister, I'll get it distributed out to. But I'm aware that whilst that might be timely, this is an actual good way of summing them all up so you see it all together. And also you get to see my correspondence out to ministers, which is also, I think, quite helpful. It would be good, CEO, to add in any media releases that we issue, which we also have a protocol about getting them out, but I think this is a nice way to make sure that you get to see it once a month. Just in case you've got this somewhere else. Yeah. Any further speakers inside? Councillor Harris.
Yes, I endorse the other two, well, now you've spoken, the other three people, that it's not a bad idea. But I'm looking particularly at 1.3, the arts funding. And this is for the, I think, the big piece of art in place. But unfortunately, the way the grant setup comes, it wouldn't be there at the opening time. So all I'm saying is what I know of it is very good, and just that bit disappointed that it won't be there when you lead your flock, your worship through the door. Oh, sorry. That's right, you're not a worship. No, but I actually...
I'm going to bring that in now. Worship now.
I'm going to let you forget it. But that unfortunately just doesn't coincide with the thing, and very disappointed, Matt, but the end result will be very well set, and thank you.
Further debate for this one? No?
Yeah, just to say again that I think it's an excellent idea, and there's no reason why this can't be expanded to include other sort of where we've received sort of invitations to office openings where we've received further media releases and announcements. I think that this can definitely be expanded, and it's good for transparency of the public, so the public can sort of see what's coming in and what's going out in a different light. So I really welcome the idea. Thank you.
Kids will love the picture of the train. Like, keep the picture of the train. So we might exercise some discretion in answering that one, because I get a lot of invitations from a lot of
it's
very institutions.
Yeah.
So if there's an invitation for the whole of council, maybe we consider that.
Correct. Yeah.
It won't be timely though, so just so you're aware that the occasion might have
It's more for the whole of council stuff, yeah.
Okay, any further speakers to 17.1? You should sum up. Please debate, all those in favour? Yes, carried unanimously. Thank you. Next item withdrawn, 17.2, outstanding council resolution report. Councillor Deputy Mayor, happy to move it again.
I'll ask a question. Oh, no, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, move it, then continue your question. Yeah.
So I think the outstanding council resolution report was outstanding, but thought someone else might have jumped into that one. But a couple of things. One suggestion, some of the resolutions have the name of the mover next to them, and a lot of them don't. So I think from the perspective of transparency and consistency, it would be good to have that in there. I also wanted to, I think this is the kind of thing some people in our community would be interested in knowing about, because often resolutions that are tabled at council meetings are on the back of a bit of emphasis and a bit of input from sections of our community. So is this information, apart from sort of buried away here in the agenda, is this information available and easily accessible anywhere on our website? And if it's not, what do we think about doing that?
So yeah, through you, Nick. There's no reason why this can't go out to everyone. It's obviously public, because we've published it here. We could do a link quite easily. Another way also would be with our Facebook and Instagram, if we want to send out a link so people can read it. Probably too small text for that. But certainly we could link it to our website. We wouldn't be any trouble doing that.
Sometimes there's a bit of a danger with people seeing how the sausage is made, but I think that people might be interested in seeing that there are lots of things going on, particularly the things that they're interested in, and I think that might also be it might be a way of ensuring that these things move through the process in a timely fashion, because there's a little bit more scrutiny around them as well. So I'm not sure whether this is the right time to suggest that we take that approach, but I just wanted to raise it as an idea.
To put that in place.
Councillor Bunny, speak to it.
Yes, because this was one thing that I had mentioned with a previous CEO, this could happen. So I'm very pleased to see it happening. I think it's and also I do get queries from certain residents or associations that ask, well, what happened to that, So I think it's quite clear then it's all there. And I think it's also a very good being transparent process, I mean, because some of the, we understand ourselves that, quite often our staff can't get to something to do immediately after the council meeting that passed. But, I think saying, well, we're telling you out there, look, we're very transparent, this is what's happening, this one might sound a bit longer or not. So, I'm very pleased to see it.
Thank you. Further debate? Councillor Pearson.
I just agree with everything. I think it's really good. It reminds you what is outstanding and nothing gets missed. So it's a great addition. And transparent is the correct word. It's out there to see what is really happening. Please, terrific.
Good. Councillor Ritter?
Yeah, if possible, I'd like to move an amendment of other sensitive point 1 to state that council to provide a link to this report and the outstanding council resolutions onto the website.
Just to set it up again. Council provide or staff to provide a link.
Yep. So basically alluding to Deputy Mayor Larwood's comment that we have that in the recommendation that council staff provide a copy of this report and a link to the website on the website.
I'll get the recordings there, so that's already in the agenda.
Link to the
we'll do the link to the website.
To the website, yeah. Separately, thank you. Yeah.
Just check this wording, CEO.
making it a prominent location.
Councillor, that's what you're
Outstanding council resolution.
Councillor, that's where you were amending? Sorry, where you're seeking to move as an amendment?
On council's website, yeah.
Okay, I'll just seek the endorsement of the mover and seconder. If you'd be happy to incorporate that.
In general, I'm not certain about the use of the term outstanding almost makes it sound like things are overdue or late. And I think I'd be happy with the council resolution register.
We know what it is.
It's called outstanding.
All right, I'm down
I know it's called,
here. Sorry, I was going to take a yes or, Deputy Mayor, I should say, it's a yes or a no, but what a great suggestion. So
It is.
yeah.
It is a practice.
So that, you happy with that? Good. It's a yes. Second, yes. No, simply the meeting to incorporate. All those in favour? That's incorporated. Thank you. That's the suggestion. Anything further, Councillor? No, Councillor Green.
Just going to make one observation, again, just back up, it's a great report. Every expected completion date is, apart from one, is for this calendar year. So that's a lot of resolutions to be resolved, which I'm not sure will all be resolved this calendar year, particularly given we're going to have a changeover of CEO partway through that. Can I just ask that when this is updated, if that completion date gets changed, that there's actually a notation to that effect? Because at the moment it looks like that's the original date that was put on all those council resolutions. I'm not sure that is the case. So I just think as they evolve and change, and council staff might recommend that things take a bit longer, that we actually know that resolution A has taken 3 months longer than we thought it would initially. So I'll just provide that as a comment, but I'll let you take that on board as you wish. And it just made me think that this outstanding report is an outstanding report. Reminds me of a scarecrow I once owned. It actually won a prize in the competition for being the most outstanding in its field.
Any further, Councillor?
No, that's all, thank you.
Are you a dad by any chance?
I've got a dad joke book. I've been reading it lately.
Any further debate? Just of course, comments. It's a great report. We do actually get this once a year. I know that our interim CEO's got a lot of effort in getting it tied up. I saw a preliminary version of this, which was about 4 times as fat, and it needed some work. So there's a lot involved in getting us just what's outstanding. I'm grateful to the member for you endorsing that as part 2. What I think I'd like to get to is to pick up some of the sentiment. It'd be great if this is a live document, and that the original dates and any revisions are shown, and we can all jump in and track it. So can interested community members, because some things they've put up, the Edward Brother Glen, people keep asking, where's it at? And people ask around about sort of about Howard thing, but they will track it if they know where to go to track it. I don't think it's suitable to oppose it in this motion here, but I would like to start to progressively move towards how we have a transparent display of what we're doing, what we've resolved to do in response to that. I'm glad you took out the word outstanding. Of course, you're all assuming that what the CEO hasn't shown us has been completed. And there is always a risk there that whilst the staff think it's been completed, we might not think it's been completed. So I think the other thing to work towards is that there's transparency around where we think something's done, and we say it's done, people can see that we think it's done, and if they don't agree, they can come back and challenge us either with a question or a deputation or whatever it might be. I just think that, again, is to be healthy. How far this goes back, how many years you keep, I don't know the answer to any of that. I think it's really good, transparent governance, and we've often found ourselves in front of the pack and that sort of stuff. So as a smart council, I really encourage the staff to not just do the link, but to keep working on how we might make this even more useful to people. Because it can be a pretty dry document too, so just putting this up is not immediately accessible to the average person in the street. So if it had a search engine over the top of it, would be really good. So they could put in Balfour Howard, and it would go straight to any resolutions that had that in the title. That would be pretty cool too. So all thoughts for future, but happy to endorse. The update, there is one in there that doesn't have a date against, by the way, but I'm sure someone's working on that. And I look forward to a really busy September agenda, because there's a heap of stuff there. Also in September. Okay, thank you. Anything further before? If not, Deputy Mayor, you should sum up.
Yes, I think let's get it up there and then look for opportunities to improve it. One thing that we could do is come up with a status key, and so every motion would be at an agreed status. It's either in consultation or a report being prepared on the agenda for the next meeting, resolved, whatever it might be, so as an immediate reference point, people could look and go, right, I can see where that is. So it's just an idea. There's a whole bunch of other things we could do, but let's get it up there and let's keep it current and make it a useful document.
Please debate, all those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously, thank you. Next item withdrawn was item 17.5, the Wilcox development, on page 266, 267. Councillor Harris, George, are you happy to move the report as it is? Or are you... No, is somebody else happy to move it and get it on the floor? Anything there? Could you speak to it?
I look forward to hearing the thoughts of the...
Okay, Councillor Bain, happy to second? Could you speak to it? Councillor Harris.
Okay, look, I would have been happy to move what these two previous people have done, but it doesn't, to me, then having another report in September just follows from here. But I've got page 268 with the discussion paper, and I've actually got the beginning on page 266. And I'll start with page 266, fourth paragraph down, Safe Work SA suggested two options that they visited the site, I think, and looked at the hoarding and other safety issues. Safe Work SA suggested two options that would be acceptable to maintain public safety around the site, which included either constructing a hoarding over the footpath, which would mean the footpath could remain open, or the footpath would need to be closed. Based on these discussions, the developer agreed to submit a city work permit application for council's consideration to address these safety concerns. And in the paragraph before, the last sentence, a prohibition notice was issued stopping any work above the footpath. Now, I'll tell you, on Wednesday, Thursday last week, the formwork, we call it pieces of wood or timber or something, on the Wednesday, Thursday last week, with no hoarding, with no shifting the footpath and blocking it off, that formwork was stripped. So it was stripped over an open form, footpath, and we just finished discussing the park situation that some people would like little children to be running around there and all those sort of things, which is a good idea, that there's possibility of run. I don't know what the developer agreed to submit a city works permit application for council's consideration, etc. So the only work permit we could get, I'm not accusing anyone of doing it, I'm saying just do what you want, because there was no B-type hoarding, there was no fencing off of the footpath, there was no stopping people, and that was stripped. So I don't know what's going to happen to the next 4 floors when they go up, because it's going to be the same, because it's the formwork that puts it up. So I'm concerned. I am fairly happy from pretty well after we had the last meeting. There we go, they work around the side street and the street's been blocked off and there's signage, and I see a lot of that vastly improved, and I thank the council people for the work they've done in it. But I still see the main part in our street being ignored, particularly if we got the other side. Now, I'm assuming it's not just going to be straight precast they're going to put up in the front, then they're going to want to pour the floor. So the slabs are going to be there, so the formwork's going to be there. So the timbers on the formwork are going to be protruding again, and that will be for 3 or 4 floors. So I have that real concern, and look, and I just don't know how to emphasise something so much, that construction workers on a site, as much as I love them, they have to be looked after by themselves and other people. But the people that walk past our jobs and go around and play in our parks, they're our concern. And I'm touched with the people here, don't see people that are killed in this industry, but it happens. And it happens because of these situations where these things are missing. The reason I didn't move the motion, because I am happy that we got this report, and I am happy that a September report comes. So that's why I went to page 268, and you look down at particularly point 3. Well, look at that whole thing that we came up with, and amongst them it's point 2 that we were looking at B-type audits anywhere in the city where it's necessary, and we looked at a review 3.2 that, and 3.1, but 3.2, a review of the city works guide with appropriate revisions and that. So to me, that's part of what should have come into that report. And I don't expect it to be done today or tomorrow. Most probably could take months to be able to change any rules of that. But so when we do these 2 black headings, perhaps should be there. And the other thing is, in this discussion or whatever, the other articles or numbers will be looked at as well, you know, because, and I'll tell you what, you go and see the people, and I've had it all my life, they'll tell you straight out, Alan Harris was lying. We used a helicopter to pull those bloody timbers off. Well, I tell you, they didn't use anything, and I'll stand here and say that. They just stripped it like they normally do. I think they were doing it dangerous, but they didn't follow what these orders were. So that's on ground floor. That's level 1. We've got a couple more levels that are going up. And it doesn't take a big mistake for something to fall. And if we can do the utmost better to protect our people and the people on the job, but particularly our people, it's important. So I don't really need it on the record, but I'd like to know that recommendation thing that we had, not necessarily now. The developer agreed to submit a city work permit application to council to address these safety concerns. Well, I'd like to know how they're going to address those safety concerns. And my fault, no one else's. I should have perhaps gone and looked at the plans to see how they're going to build the next levels.
What minute have you needed, Councillor?
I'm not really, because I'm telling myself off now, I don't want to take too much time with that. But, you know, I've perhaps gone and said, well, how they're going to do level 2, 3 and 4 and that sort of stuff. So it's just a dangerous thing. And we've done it, you know, tenants done it across the road. So we can't say we can't do it on Prospect Road. We can't say that. You've got a bus stop there. The bus stop's never been shifted. You've got a park that you don't see many people go, but kids do go in there and play. You've got kids that come from the school and go home. There's that front area there. We can't block it off, quite personally. I'm going to end now. We can't block it off, quite personally, because otherwise people my age and older, if they want to cross the road, they've got to go right back there, or they've got to go right up further. You know, like bang, bang to come back in. It's a too big a distance. So I'm happy with what we've done, but I don't think it's gone further enough. And I honestly really need to, but we should see what that work permit was that was done, and to move along quickly with the review of the city work guides to look at it. Thank you.
Any further debate? Just from the chair, I'm heartily endorsed what Councillor Harris has said. I'm happy to endorse the work that's happened in the last few weeks to tidy things up. There has been a notable difference. Thank you for that. I didn't realise prohibition notice had been mentioned in the executive summary. Thank you, it is there. The process that followed that is not really covered in the report. The issue of a prohibition notice by Soper VSA is a pretty serious deal. And work's got to stop on the site, or in that part of the site that they deem a concern. My view is, and I've mentioned this to the CEO, I've done more than mention it, it's our footpath. We're not happy. We should feel we've got the authority to stop this over our public land, our asset, and we bear the risk of someone's hurt on it. We can call it safe work and say all we like, but their purview is within the whole site, the whole operation. Ours is over our public land, and that's entirely within our purview to cease that if we're not happy with it. So I just encourage the CEO to keep working hard at this. I know he's done a lot of work in trying to pull together the various parts of the organisation that touch on traffic management, planning and inspections and everything else. I'm not, whilst I know there's good people working this, I'm not particularly interested and how many people are needed. All I know is that if someone gets hurt, it'll be me in the frame, be the CEO, followed by all of you lot, about did we anticipate this? Did we have a plan to avoid it? How do we execute that plan? And at this stage, I have not been convinced that we're well across the risk and that we're dealing with it. And I've made that point with the previous CEO, and I'm assured by him he's made it really clear to everyone in the organisation. We rely on you, CEO, your people, to make this work. And I'm hoping that we'll get more and more confidence going forward that it will be done properly. But so far, I have to agree with Councillor Harris. I don't have enough confidence in the open work aspect at this point at all, really. Traffic management has come good. Their establishment on site is better because they've finally got a ground floor, so I'm hoping that they can migrate themselves inside that as they go, and they now have a basement. But this is not the only building. It's not the only time we've raised these matters, and I'm disappointed that after 2013 rezoning of corridors and 2014 activity starting, that we're still grumpy about this stuff not being managed well. It's, it's 5 years into this building program, and it really should be much, much better. So I'm hoping that it continues to improve. I'm hoping we don't see another report like this come to us, because we won't have another motion of notice, because we will be really happy with how it's managed. Just in closing, the issue of pedestrian traffic on main roads is my personal view, and we don't have a council policy, maybe we should, but on a main road, that pedestrian thoroughfares should not be blocked for long periods of time. Maybe if there's a concrete truck coming or a crane for an hour, maybe, an hour might be the tops, but I don't believe it's appropriate to put a pedestrians use other footpath on a road like Prospect Road or Main North Road or Churchill Road. We've done it before, we've seen it done before. Morris's did it for a while. I just think it's completely unacceptable. You can't expect that parents and prams or oldies or anybody should have to try and cross Prospect Road to get around someone's construction site when it can be fixed with money. They can put a proper B-type boarding in, or even a protection, a fall protection, something in there to protect the pedestrian and keep that pedestrian thoroughfare open. So side street may be different, main road, I just don't think it's acceptable. I think if we think, of course, if we say, well, it is acceptable to protect the pedestrians, then we say, okay, you've got to cross a main road not once, but twice. How on earth do we think that navigating that is safer than the builder being forced to put into protections beyond it? I just think it's nonsense. They don't cross the road. They walk in the bike lane, at risk of being hit by a car or a truck, and then they're killed. The coroner will come and ask us, how on earth we let that happen, given that we have control over our footpaths and we are the experts in pedestrians as far as anyone's concerned. It's public, local government domain. So that great for the report. Strong preference not to see a repeat, because I want to have glowing confidence in what our staff do. I'm not there yet. Thank you.
Can I just have a question?
Let's go to the motion. I'll have a brief question.
Because I'd like us all to vote for it, but my question is, can we get those other things, the 3.2 and 3 points added into it, instead of just report?
So your question is,
the things that said about avoiding 3.2 and 3.3,
We'll include that in the September report.
stuff that was on page 266, which was really our last motion.
Yep. So CEO just understands where you are.
Yeah, we'll include it in the next report, so you can see that.
And hopefully act on it.
Yes.
Thank you. Any further debate? Deputy Mayor, do you wish to sum up?
No.
Please debate. All those in favour?
Yes.
Carried. Unanimously. Okay, council diary. That's where we're at, is it? Launch of the historic Civil Defence Mural and World War II honour boards at the Prospect area on Wilcox and 2 U's and 2 L's Avenue, Prospect SA 5082. Make sure I got all that right, Deputy Mayor. I want to get any aspect of it wrong. Sunday, 8th of September. And on Tuesday the 17th, we've got the citizenship ceremony. I understand that's a monster. Over 80.
So we're doing two.
It's not, yeah, just 5:30, I heard it's 1:30 or something.
Yeah, there are two ceremonies because of the numbers. We simply can't fit all of the candidates and their families and everybody else in this hall at once. So the staff have come to this great idea of having two back-to-back ceremonies, and I'll be making two speeches. So I'm going to be entertained by what I say at one and not the other.
So we will have
Look, I'm always encouraging members to come to these official events. I think it's really important for new citizens to get a chance to meet their local politicians, and that's what you are. So that if you can be there, please be there. Maybe one that. What are the two times?
This is 2:30.
Sorry, Jazz was
Well,
saying.
yeah, all right. Yeah, I think it's 1:30.
Okay. General business of urgent nature, any general business? No, good. Confidential items, nil, meeting is closed. Thank you.